Hey guys, welcome back to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight, we're diving into one of the quietest mysteries of the ancient world. Imagine this, you're standing barefoot in a wild forest. There are no lights, no buzzing of phones, no hum of machines, not even the faintest sound of electricity. Just wind, leaves, animal calls in the distance, and your fellow humans, huddled around a fire or crouched in the grass nearby. But there's a question floating in that silent, prehistoric air. How are they talking to each other? How did Stone Age people communicate when there was no writing, no recorded language, no screens, and no emojis to bail them out? That's what we're exploring tonight. And don't worry, you won't need to stay awake to find out the answer. So let's begin our journey by stepping far back in time, tens of thousands of years ago, before cities, before alphabets, before names even. Just imagine waking up in a world where survival is your only job. Every sunrise means another chance to hunt, gather, stay alive. And yet even then, humans had something special, the urge to connect. Not just physically, not just for survival, but to share thoughts, warnings, stories, dreams, things you can't point to or touch. Let's paint a picture. Picture a tribe, maybe 20 people, sitting by a fire. One man stands up, pointing toward the woods, then acts out a dramatic hunting scene, perhaps mimicking the way a deer moves, then showing how he crept forward, speared it, and brought it back. The others nod, grunt in approval, maybe imitate him back. That, right there, might have been a story. The first story. And even though no one was speaking as we do now, the message was clear. This is how I hunted. This is what I saw. This is what you can learn. Communication, back then, wasn't just sound. It was a full-body experience. Gesture, expression, posture, all vital. Anthropologists believe early humans relied heavily on what we now call nonverbal communication. Think of it as a complex dance between hands, faces, and silence. The eyes said one thing, the eyebrows another. A curled lip could mean danger, a tilted head could mean curiosity, and over time, these signals formed their own kind of unspoken language. Grunts, groans, clicks, yes, even those were part of it. You know that sound you make when you're thinking, or the sharp intake of breath when you're surprised. Early humans had versions of those too, only theirs might have meant, look out, or follow me. Over time, these sounds probably grew more nuanced. Not quite words yet, but building blocks of something more. Some researchers believe that proto-language, a stage between gesture-based communication and full-spoken language, may have existed for tens of thousands of years. It wasn't language the way we understand it, with grammar and rules, but rather a collection of shared sounds and signs that meant something to those within the group. Imagine having a sound for food, another for danger, one for come here, and another for no. Combine those with body movements, and suddenly, you're telling someone to stay put because there's a lion nearby and food will have to wait. Now let's pause and think about sound itself. In the quiet wilderness, sound traveled differently. No planes overhead, no cars, no cities. A crack of a twig in the distance might be a message. A bird call repeated in a certain rhythm might signal that someone is nearby. It's not hard to believe that early humans became incredibly sensitive to subtle shifts in tone, rhythm, and volume. Maybe a higher-pitched grunt meant fear, while a lower one meant contentment. A fast beat on a hollow log might have echoed through the trees, calling others home. Was that music? Was it communication? Maybe it was both. Think about how babies today learn to speak. They don't start with full sentences. They begin by mimicking sound, copying expression, responding to tone. Early humans may have followed a similar path, slowly building their auditory world, one shared meaning at a time. A baby doesn't need a dictionary to know what a smile means. Neither did the people of the Stone Age. Emotion was language. Urgency, calm, warning, all could be communicated without a single word. And what about art? Let's not forget the mysterious, beautiful cave paintings left behind by Paleolithic people. Those handprints on the cave wall. Those animal figures etched in ochre and charcoal. Those weren't decorations. They were messages. Maybe not meant for us, but for each other. For the tribe, or for future generations. Was it a hunting guide, a spiritual vision, a warning? We may never know for sure, but it's clear these people weren't silent. Their walls spoke. Even things like body paint, jewelry made from shells, feathers woven into hair, these may have communicated identity, status, intention. A red painted face might say, I am a warrior. A necklace of animal teeth might say, I killed a predator. Think about it. If you couldn't write your name, how would you tell the world who you were? You'd wear your life on your body. And of course, there's the role of mimicry, one of the earliest forms of learning and teaching. A mother showing her child how to crack open a nut by doing it slowly, then offering the stone. A hunter showing the angle of a spear throw. Every act was a form of speech. Repetition became understanding, and understanding became survival. By now, your eyes might be heavy, your thoughts drifting just like those ancient people who once lay under the stars, sharing their days in silence, or in sounds we'll never quite understand. But we can feel it, can't we? That deep, timeless urge to be known, to be heard, even if words are never spoken. So as you settle in tonight, remember, long before the alphabet, long before phones and texts and memes, we humans still found a way to say, I'm here, I'm at it, I see you. And somehow, that was always enough. And so, as the embers of that ancient fire dim into the night, we continue drifting deeper into a world where voices had no letters, where thoughts traveled not through wires but through gestures, glances, and primal sounds. Welcome back. And if you're still with me, or even just barely awake, let's walk a little further into this quiet, forgotten forest of early human connection. Because there's more to say about the way nothing was said, and yet everything was understood. Imagine again that small band of Stone Age people, scattered across a rocky outcrop, staring at the stars with questions they couldn't name. One of them stirs, rises, and begins to mimic an animal, its gait, its cry, maybe even its final breath. The others watch, transfixed, not laughing, not clapping, just learning. Because in a world without schools, every movement is a lesson. And in a world without words, a shared glance might hold more meaning than a 1,000-page book. These were not aimless actions. This was not simple play. This was transmission of experience, of memory, of warning, of wisdom. And in the stillness of that night, with only the wind whispering through the leaves, those lessons traveled from one mind to another without ever needing a single syllable. Isn't that remarkable? To think that before we wrote myths or carved laws, we mimed danger, mimicked life, and danced memory into each other's eyes. And there was rhythm too, repetition, pattern. Picture two people sitting by a stream. One lifts a stone, taps it 3 times against another, pauses, then repeats. The other watches, listens, responds with their own 3-tap echo. Now what does that mean? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Maybe it means, I see you. Maybe it's a kind of play. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a secret signal. One that says, this is safe, or this is sacred. That idea of rhythm as language is older than any alphabet. In fact, some anthropologists believe music may have preceded speech. Think about that. Before we could say, I love you, we could hum it. Before we could shout, danger, we could drum it into the earth with our feet. The steady beat of survival, the soft pulse of belonging. These sounds were messages that moved through the body as much as the ears. They resonated not just in the mind, but in the bones. Now let's go deeper, into the caves. Yes, those caves. The ones you've seen in pictures, walls painted with bulls, deer, handprints, spirals, mysterious symbols. They weren't just decorations. Not really. They were messages. Not just messages for others, but messages for memory itself. Imagine painting your hunt on a wall not because you wanted to brag, but because you wanted your tribe to remember. Or perhaps because you believed the act of painting helped the hunt succeed. A kind of magic. A kind of speech beyond speech. And those handprints, have you noticed them? Repeated across continents, across cultures, across millennia. Always the same, a palm pressed flat against stone. Sometimes red, sometimes black, sometimes outlined like a shadow. What was that? A signature, a presence, a statement that simply said, I was here. Or maybe more hauntingly, we were here and now we are gone. In a world with no names, no addresses, that single handprint might have been the closest thing to immortality. A whisper etched in rock, a frozen moment of sent out into the timeless dark. But it wasn't just art. It was tools, too. Objects spoke. A sharpened stone left on a flat surface might not just be a forgotten tool, it might be a message. This is where we work, or this is yours now, or even, I'm coming back. Arrangement meant intention. Placement meant purpose. And over time, those choices formed their own kind of grammar. Not written on paper, but written in the way bones were laid out, how fires were placed, how shelters were built. A silent code of survival. And let's not forget mimicry, the ancient method of showing instead of telling. A child watches an elder crush berries and mix the juice into clay. She doesn't ask why. She doesn't need to. She watches. She copies. She learns. No explanation, no lecture, just action. Repeated, embedded, understood. Communication back then wasn't just about information, it was about transformation. You didn't just learn that something was dangerous. You learned how to feel the danger. You didn't just hear about a ritual, you became part of it. You didn't read a poem, you watched it danced, sung, painted, groaned into the air. Over time, patterns began to form. Groups developed their own codes, their own rhythms of sound and motion. Maybe one group used a sharp clicking sound to call others during a hunt. Maybe another used high-pitched whistles across valleys. The sounds weren't universal, but their purpose was, and the beauty is they evolved slowly, subtly, just like language would one day do. A grunt becomes a tone becomes a phrase becomes culture, and in this soft evolution we find the roots of story, because what is a story if not a sequence of events arranged to mean something? Picture a woman miming the hunt to her children. First, the stalking, then the throw, then the feast. She pauses between each act. She emphasizes certain motions. The children gasp, giggle, flinch. That's pacing, that's narration, that's story. Long before Homer, long before ink. Now, close your eyes if they aren't already and try to picture what a conversation felt like back then. Not sounded like, but felt. The shared warmth of a fire. The glance that says, thank you. The gesture that says, be careful. The silence that says, I understand. It wasn't loud, it wasn't fast, but it was real. More real sometimes than our frantic digital chatter. So here, in the quiet hush of prehistory, we begin to see that communication is older than speech, older than writing, maybe even older than thinking. It is movement, it is mimicry, it is memory, and it is meaning layered into action, sealed into rhythm, whispered across generations through hands, stones, sounds, and the spaces between them. So as we settle once more into the slow rhythm of deep time, remember, our ancestors did not need Wi-Fi to connect. They did not need syllables to speak. All they needed was each other and the silent language of being human. And here we are again, drifting gently from the echoing silence of that prehistoric night, moving ever deeper into the mysteries of how Stone Age people spoke without speaking, connected without words, and shared stories before stories were even stories. If you're still awake, or at least pretending to be, let's continue unraveling this ancient tapestry of communication, thread by thread, sound by sound, gesture by gesture. So far, we've wandered among flickering fires, traced the rhythm of tapping stones, felt the magic in cave paintings, and listened for the heartbeat in silent glances. But what about the world beyond the campfire? What about the vast, untamed landscapes where distance stretched like an endless ocean and voices had to travel far and wide? How did Stone Age people communicate when they were miles apart? Because, of course, survival often meant not just staying alive together but warning, calling, or finding each other across great distances. Imagine the first hunter venturing far beyond the familiar hills. The sun is low, shadows stretch long and dark. Suddenly, the hunter hears a sound distant, deliberate. Is it a call, a warning, a song, or just the wind playing tricks? The answer is closer than you think. Early humans, attuned to nature's orchestra, found ways to make their voices carry. Long before megaphones or walkie-talkies, they used the environment itself as a communication tool. Hollow logs became natural drums, echoing messages through dense forests and across valleys. Clapping hands or stamping feet on hollow ground sent vibrations through the earth, a secret Morse code only those nearby could feel. And whistles. Yes, whistles. By shaping their mouths just right, they produced high-pitched, piercing sounds that cut through the thickest fog or rustling leaves. Some anthropologists believe these early, acoustic signals were the first steps toward language with an emphasis on urgency and clarity. A sharp whistle might have meant danger. A drawn-out call might have meant comb here. The rhythm and repetition mattered just as much as the tone. Sound was shaped to fit purpose, born out of necessity. But distance wasn't the only challenge. Darkness, storms, and thick forests often muffled or masked sounds. so, early humans developed ways to communicate silently too. Enter the realm of body language, more complex than you might imagine. You might think of body language as subtle, but for Stone Age people, it was a rich language filled with nuance. A raised arm might signal stop. A crouched stance might mean hide. A slow, deliberate pointing might indicate, look over there. Entire conversations could be held through combinations of gestures. And because early humans lived in small groups where trust and understanding were vital, this silent language was honed with precision. Imagine hunting scenes where an entire tribe moves as one silent shadow, communicating with a language only they understood, a language of fingers, palms, eyes, and the smallest flicks of the wrist. To the untrained eye, it would look like a slow-motion dance, but to them, it was life-saving conversation. Another fascinating aspect of Stone Age communication is the role of facial expressions. Today, we often underestimate how powerful a glance or a grimace can be, but these early humans, our distant ancestors, depended on facial signals as much as words. Studies on modern humans and primates show that facial expressions are universal languages of emotion. A smile, a frown, a raised eyebrow, or wide eyes can communicate happiness, confusion, surprise, or fear. Early humans likely shared these expressions openly, their faces acting as windows to their intentions, moods, and reactions. When words were lacking, these expressions were crucial. And what about scent? Yes, scent, though often overlooked, smell has played an ancient role in communication, especially for animals and early humans. The subtle smell of sweat, herbs, or smoke might have conveyed messages about health, mood, or social status. Burning certain plants near a campfire might have sent olfactory signals, sig messages carried on the air, as ancient humans tried to express feelings or warnings beyond sounds and sights. Now, let's shift to a different kind of communication altogether, ritual. Long before the rise of formal religion, humans performed rituals. Why? Because rituals are powerful tools of social connection and communication. Think about it: a group gathered around a fire, moving together in time with drumming or chanting, bodies moving in unison, voices rising and falling. A shared experience, intense and unforgettable. In such moments, communication transcended individual messages. It became communal, emotional, spiritual. These rituals, whether dances, chants, or symbolic acts, strengthened bonds, conveyed shared values, and passed knowledge between generations. They created an invisible thread of unity, binding members of the tribe in a language of collective memory. We see echoes of these early rituals in countless human cultures today. The power of rhythm, chant, and movement remains at the heart of human connection. Even without words, rituals speak volumes. But what about the dawn of actual spoken language? When did those first words, the ones we take for granted today, emerge from this rich symphony of gestures, sounds, and signs? The truth is, no one knows exactly when. Language likely emerged slowly, over tens of thousands of years, growing from the proto-languages we hinted at earlier. Combinations of sounds and gestures developed for practical survival. It was a gradual process of refinement and innovation. Researchers have tried to pin down clues by studying ancient skulls and vocal tracts, searching for the physical ability to produce complex speech. They look at the shape of the throat, the size of the brain, and the tools used for communication. But the evidence remains elusive, like whispers lost in the wind. What is clearer is that language brought a revolution. Once words could be shared and understood, humans could describe the past and imagine the future. They could teach and learn complex skills faster. They could form larger, more organized societies. They could dream together. Yet, for many thousands of years, speech and gesture lived side by side, intertwined like vines. Even today, we rely on both to communicate fully. Think of how you talk to friends, how much of what you say is in your tone, your face, your hands. Our ancestors started this dance long ago, and we're still learning the steps. So, as your eyelids grow heavier, consider this: the story of human communication is the story of us. It's the story of how silence became song, how gestures became words, how loneliness became connection. Before texts, before phones, before writing or printing, there was simply the desire to reach out to say, I see you, I am here, we are together. And in that simple act lies the beating heart of humanity. A truth that echoes from the first flickering fire to your quiet room tonight. The Stone Age people, in all their silent eloquence, taught us that communication is less about words and more about presence. less about noise and more about meaning. So rest now, with that ancient wisdom warming your thoughts. Tomorrow, we'll explore more hidden corners of how those first connections shaped everything that followed. But for tonight, let the silence speak. And as the night deepens and the fire's glow fades into a gentle ember, let's continue our slow wander through the vast, silent world of Stone Age communication. If you're still with me, perhaps now sinking deeper into drowsiness, let's explore how our ancestors' connections went beyond just survival. They wove the very fabric of society, culture, and identity, all without the convenience of words as we know them today. We've seen how gestures, sounds, and ritual shaped early communication, but there's another layer, something even more subtle, more profound. The way Stone Age people shared not just facts or warnings, but emotions, beliefs, and imagination. Because communication is never just about passing information, it's about sharing what it means to be human. Imagine again the tribe gathered under the vast dome of night sky. The flickering fire casts shadows that dance across faces, faces that glow with anticipation. An elder rises slowly, taking center stage. Without a single word, they begin to tell a story through movement, expression, and perhaps a primitive chant. The story might be about the hunt, the seasons, the spirits that walk unseen. The listeners lean in, eyes wide, hearts stirred. This was the birth of narrative. Long before written pages, stories lived in memory and performance. They were vehicles of knowledge, how to hunt, which berries to avoid, where water could be found. But stories were also vessels of identity, of values, of connection to the land and to each other. A story was a bridge between generations. And to keep these stories alive, humans developed techniques of memory that seem almost magical today. Rhythms, repetition, melody, and vivid imagery were tools to make tales stick. Songs and chants helped lock stories in the mind, while hand movements and body language added layers of meaning. Think of it as an ancient multimedia experience, all performed live, without scripts or props. This oral tradition wasn't just entertainment. It was education, religion, law, and history all wrapped into one. And because it relied on human presence, on voices and faces, it demanded attention, respect, and shared participation. Stories were living things, breathed and shaped by each telling. Now, consider how communication influenced social bonds. In a small group, trust and cooperation are everything. Without clear ways to express feelings or intentions, misunderstandings could be fatal. So nonverbal cues, the tilt of a head, a smile, a comforting touch were essential to maintain harmony. Conflict resolution, leadership, and social roles were negotiated through these subtle exchanges. The concept of face or reputation, so important even in modern societies, likely had roots here. A gesture could convey respect or disdain, inclusion or exclusion. Wearing certain adornments, bones, feathers, pigments communicated status and group belonging. Appearance itself became a form of communication. It's fascinating to think that before writing, before names, people expressed identity through presence and symbolism. They crafted personal and collective stories not just with words, but with objects, colors, and movements. Imagine the significance of a painted stripe across the face, or a necklace made of carved shells. These were messages to the tribe and to outsiders, and the environment itself became a canvas for communication. Beyond the caves, early humans left marks on stones, arranged bones in patterns, and built simple structures that might have served as territorial markers or gathering points. Some speculate these were early attempts at what we would call signs, or symbols, precursors to writing systems that would appear tens of thousands of years later. All of these forms of expression show us that communication is deeply embedded in human creativity. It's not just about survival or information, it's about meaning, connection, and imagination. At the same time, the sensory world of Stone Age people was rich and complex. They experienced the world not just through sight and sound, but through touch, taste, and smell. Communication wasn't confined to language, it was embodied in every sensation. Consider how a certain texture or temperature might signal safety or danger. The warmth of a friend's hand could calm fear. The bitterness of a plant could warn of poison. The scent of smoke might signal cooking or danger from fire. These sensory signals communicated volumes in a world without digital distractions. Even the rhythms of nature, the sunrise, the seasons, the migrations of animals structured life and understanding. People learned to read these patterns, communicating with each other, and the land through shared knowledge of cycles and signs. This ecological knowledge was a form of communication across generations. And finally, let's not forget the role of silence itself. In our modern world, silence often feels empty or awkward, but for Stone Age people, silence was a language in its own right. It was a pause for thought, a space for respect, a boundary between worlds, the living and the spirits, the known and the unknown. Sometimes, what was not said was just as important as what was. A moment of quiet could signal reverence, grief, or warning. It allowed listeners to absorb and reflect, to connect beyond words. In silence, meaning deepened. So as you drift closer to sleep, carry with you this ancient understanding: communication is not just words, sound, or signs. It's presence. It's shared experience. It's the silent language of connection that has carried humanity across millennia. From handprints on cave walls to the subtle glance of a friend, from the beating of drums to the hush of night, communication is the thread that weaves us all together. And it all began, so quietly, in the lives of Stone Age people who found ways to say everything without ever writing a single word. And as the night unfolds further and your mind drifts ever so gently toward rest, let's linger a little longer in the timeless world of Stone Age communication, a world without words, but rich beyond imagining. If you're still with me, that means we're about to dive into another fascinating layer: how the environment, the body, and the mind intertwine to create a profound, silent conversation, a dialogue that was felt as much as heard, seen as much as intuited. We've wandered through firelit tales and silent glances, but what about the spaces between? The pauses, the silences, the unspoken agreements that held these ancient communities together. Because communication is as much about what's not said as what is. Picture the early morning mist curling over a meadow. A group gathers in near silence, each person attuned to the breath of the earth. One reaches out, brushes a leaf gently, then looks around, eyes bright with discovery. That simple movement speaks volumes. Look here, something new, something important. No words needed. The air is charged with shared attention, a collective moment of understanding. This kind of attention was vital. In a world where survival hinged on the smallest detail: a broken twig, a change in the wind, a scent on the air, every gesture, every look mattered. Early humans became masters of observation and subtlety. They read the world not only with their senses, but with their bodies and hearts. Let's talk about the body as a canvas and a tool for communication. We've touched on gestures and facial expressions, but consider the whole body: how posture conveys confidence or submission, how movements mimic the rhythm of the environment, how dance might echo the pulse of life itself. These physical expressions were the first scripts, the original alphabet written in muscle and motion. Imagine a hunter moving silently through the forest, body low and deliberate, eyes scanning, hands ready. Each motion is a message to others: be cautious, follow my lead, we are close. Even breathing was part of this communication, controlled and measured. The breath spoke a language of tension, calm, excitement, or fear. And then there was touch. Touch was a language of trust, reassurance, and connection. A hand on the shoulder might say, "You're not alone." A gentle clasp might soothe the pain or fear. In a time before words, touch was immediate, intimate, and powerful. It bound individuals into a cohesive whole, a tribe of shared strength. But what about the role of mimicry, imitation, and play? For us, play often feels like leisure. But for early humans, it was essential learning, a living classroom where communication skills were honed. Children copied adults, practicing hunting gestures, speech sounds, and social cues. These playful exchanges weren't frivolous, they were foundational. Through imitation, skills passed from generation to generation without ink or parchment. Stories were acted out, warnings were demonstrated. Playful teasing or laughter itself was a form of social glue, communicating acceptance and joy. Even laughter is a form of communication older than language. Speaking of sound again, consider the earliest forms of music and rhythm. The pounding of stones or sticks, the humming of voices in unison, the clapping of hands, all created a shared sensory experience that transcended individual speech. Music may have been the first universal language, connecting hearts and minds in ways words never could. Some theories suggest that this musicality laid the groundwork for language itself, shaping the flow, pitch, and melody of speech to come. Rhythm bonded tribes, coordinated hunting or gathering, and synchronized social rituals. In this way, the boundary between music and language was blurred, a dance of sound and meaning. And what of the mind's role? Communication isn't just external, it's internal too. Early humans likely developed sophisticated ways of understanding intention, empathy, and shared experience. Theory of mind suggests they could guess what others were thinking or feeling, predicting actions and responding accordingly. This mental dance allowed cooperation to flourish. It was the invisible thread of connection beneath gestures and sounds. Without it, words would be meaningless. With it, even silence spoke volumes. Think of the earliest bonds of trust formed by simple acts: sharing food, caring for the sick, comforting the frightened. These gestures communicated safety and belonging. They built the social fabric that held small groups together through harsh climates and dangers. And so, in this slow unfolding of communication, we see the birth of culture itself, a web of shared meanings, rituals, and symbols that transcended individual lives. These early humans weren't just surviving, they were creating a world of significance, meaning, and belonging. As your thoughts grow heavier and the stories of silent fires and whispered glances fade softly into dreams, remember that communication is at the heart of what makes us human. Long before alphabets, before languages carved into stone or typed on screens, it was a dance of presence, a chorus of silent voices, a language written in breath, gesture, and soul. So rest well, knowing that in the quiet depths of history, our ancestors spoke to one another without a single word, in that language, in all its forms, is the legacy they passed down to us. And here we are once more, as the shadows lengthen, and the quiet hum of history carries us further along the winding path of ancient communication. If you're still listening, whether with open eyes or drifting somewhere between wakefulness and dreams, and let's delve even deeper into the subtle, silent, and wondrous ways our Stone Age ancestors connected, long before words filled the air. We've wandered through flickering fires and cave walls, traced the rhythms of stone drums and whispered tales of breath and gesture. But now, let's explore the extraordinary power of symbolism in Stone Age communication, the earliest signs and marks that began to shape meaning beyond the immediate, reaching toward the abstract and the sacred. Imagine the flicker of torchlight revealing a carefully arranged pattern of stones on the ground. Perhaps a circle, a spiral, or a series of dots and lines. To us, these might seem like simple decorations or random arrangements. But to those ancient people, each shape, each placement held purpose and significance. These early symbols were among the first steps toward what would one day become writing, not just a record, but a language of symbols that conveyed ideas, identity, and belief. These marks were messages to the present and the future, a silent dialogue across time. Some researchers call these proto-symbols, early attempts to capture and share complex ideas visually. For instance, a spiral might represent the cycle of seasons, life, or the passage of time. A handprint could be a signature, a mark of presence, a statement of belonging. The use of color added yet another layer. Ochre, charcoal, and other natural pigments were applied with care to stones, bones, and skin. Colors weren't chosen at random, they communicated meaning. Red might symbolize life, blood, or power. Black could stand for death, mystery, or protection. These choices were deliberate, steeped in the cultural and spiritual lives of the people. And think about how these symbols might have worked in tandem with other forms of communication. A painted animal on a cave wall could be accompanied by rhythmic drumming and chant, transforming the space into a living story. The environment itself became a stage for communication, where sight, sound, and touch intertwined to create meaning. In some cases, symbols may have marked territories or signaled alliances. Imagine a group marking the entrance to their hunting grounds with a particular sign, a message to outsiders. This is ours. Respect this space. Or perhaps symbolic objects were exchanged between groups as tokens of friendship, trade, or marriage, a language of objects speaking volumes without a word. Even body adornment carried symbolic weight. Feathers, beads, carved bones, and painted skin were more than decoration. They were statements of identity, status, and belief. Wearing a necklace of wolf teeth might communicate courage or a connection to the animal's spirit. Facial paint could signal readiness for battle or participation in ritual. These outward signs were deeply woven into social communication. Consider also the role of sound symbolism, the idea that certain sounds carry meaning beyond arbitrary labels. Early humans may have linked specific calls or vocalizations with emotions or concepts. A sharp, high-pitched sound might universally convey alarm, while a low, soothing hum might signal safety. These sounds formed a shared emotional language that transcended individual groups. As language slowly emerged, these symbolic forms likely influenced the development of words and grammar. The jump from concrete signs to abstract concepts was a monumental step in human cognitive evolution. The earliest words may have been tied closely to these symbols and sounds, grounding language in shared experiences and meanings. This layering of communication, gesture, sound, symbol created a rich tapestry. Imagine the complexity of a ritual where a story is told not just in words, but through painted symbols, musical rhythm, and coordinated movement. The participants didn't just hear the story, they lived it, experienced it with all their senses. And here, too, lies the profound connection between communication and spirituality. Many symbols and rituals from the Stone Age hint at beliefs and forces beyond the visible world: spirits, ancestors, natural powers. Communication was not just among people, but between the human, the divine, the seen, and the unseen. These sacred communications fostered community cohesion and individual identity. Participating in ritual symbolized belonging, shared history, and common destiny. It was a language that bound souls, much as words bind ideas today. So, as your thoughts slow and your mind prepares for rest, carry this with you. Communication began as an art, a dance of senses and symbols reaching beyond the here and now. It was a way to hold on to what mattered, to connect with each other, and with the mysteries of existence. From simple marks on stone to the first whispered words, our ancestors' journey in communication was a slow unfolding of meaning, connection, and humanity itself. And so, as the soft veil of night continues to wrap around us, we find ourselves gently carried forward on the slow, winding river of time, deeper into the intricate world of ancient communication. If you've stayed awake, or at least your mind has lingered enough to hear these whispers from the past, let's now explore a dimension of human connection that goes beyond sound, symbol, and gesture. Let's step into the world of shared experiences and collective memory, the invisible threads that bound Stone Age communities together across generations. We've talked about the gestures, the rhythms, the painted walls and carved symbols. But what tied all these elements into a living, breathing culture was something even more intangible: the stories told around the fire, the communal rites that transformed individuals into a tribe, the shared memories that wove past, present, and future into a seamless whole. Imagine once more a circle of faces illuminated by firelight. The air is thick with the smell of smoke and earth, punctuated by the murmurs and breaths of the gathered tribe. An elder begins to move, not with spoken words, but with a sequence of gestures and sounds, a dance of meaning that is at once intimate and universal. This is storytelling, oral tradition, alive and pulsing. In the absence of writing, memory was a sacred trust. Stories were not merely told, they were lived, rehearsed, and passed from one mouth to another like precious gifts. Each telling might change slightly, shaped by the storyteller's mood, the audience's reaction, the passing of seasons. But the core remained a repository of knowledge, history, morality, and identity. These stories were the glue that held communities together. They told of hunts and hardships, of love and loss, of spirits and stars. They explained the origins of the world and the roles of people within it. Through story, lessons were taught and remembered, warnings encoded, wisdom preserved, and because the stories were performed rather than written, communication became multidimensional. Tone of voice, facial expression, gesture, and rhythm combined to create a rich tapestry of meaning. The storyteller's eyes might flash with humor or sorrow. Hands might mimic the leap of a deer or the crack of a spear. The audience responded with gasps, laughter, or silence, a dialogue in its own right. This dynamic, performative communication forged empathy and understanding, binding individuals into a shared emotional experience. It was a dialogue not only of words, but of feelings and presence. The communal sharing of stories created a sense of belonging and continuity, a lifeline across time. And what of the transmission of knowledge beyond stories? Consider the role of apprenticeship, the hands-on teaching of skills essential for survival. Hunting techniques, tool making, gathering edible plants, crafting clothing, all these required careful communication of nuanced actions and details. The apprentice learned not by reading, but by watching, imitating, and practicing under the watchful eye of a mentor. Here, communication was tactile and iterative. A subtle correction in grip, a patient demonstration repeated countless times, a nod of approval or gentle guidance all formed a language of learning. Mistakes were corrected with care, and successes celebrated with smiles or affirming gestures. This method of teaching was deeply relational, relying on trust and patience. It created bonds between generations and ensured that vital skills passed down intact. Through this embodied communication, knowledge became part of the body, part of memory, part of identity. Now, think about the significance of ritual spaces, the caves, the clearings, the riverbanks where ceremonies were held. These were not mere backdrops, but active participants in communication. The choice of location, the arrangement of stones or fire, the direction faced all conveyed meaning and intention. Participation in these communal rituals reinforced social cohesion and individual identity. It was here that personal stories merged with collective myth, and individual emotions blended with communal expression. Through ritual, communication transcended the mundane and touched the sacred. Furthermore, many of these rituals likely included early forms of music and dance, uniting the community in shared rhythm and movement. The body became both messenger and message, conveying through movement what words could not fully capture. And as the senses entwined, the crackling fire, the pulse of drums, the smell of burning herbs, the sight of painted symbols, a multisensory language unfolded, rich and evocative. This holistic communication created a powerful sense of we, a community bound by shared experiences and meanings. It shaped identity and provided a framework for understanding the world and one's place within it. So as you nestle deeper into the gentle embrace of sleep, carry with you this understanding. Human communication is a tapestry woven from countless threads: gesture, sound, symbol, story, touch, memory, and ritual. It is as much about connection as about expression, as much about shared experience as individual speech. From the flicker of a cave painting to the whispered cadence of a tale, from the clasp of a hand to the beat of a drum, these were the first languages of humanity. Silent yet profound, simple yet infinite. And it is through these ancient, often wordless dialogues that we find the roots of who we are: storytellers, listeners, learners, and above all, connectors. And here we continue, the gentle unfolding of time and memory carrying us softly forward, as if the very air itself is charged with the echoes of voices long past. If you're still with me, whether your eyes flutter or your mind drifts, let's explore now how the earliest humans mastered the art of attention, of listening, and how this subtle dance shaped their silent but profound communication. So much of what we understand about communication today focuses on the act of speaking words, sounds, sentences. But what about listening? The patient, deliberate art of truly hearing and understanding without interrupting. For Stone Age people, listening was survival. It was connection. It was an opening of the soul to the world around. Imagine standing on a misty hillside as dawn breaks. The wind carries a faint rustle in the grass, the call of a distant bird, the crack of a twig. These sounds, subtle and easily missed, carried vital information. The ability to listen, really listen, meant the difference between life and death. It was an attunement not only to fellow humans, but to the entire environment. This attentive listening was more than just passive hearing. It was active, embodied, and focused. Early humans trained their senses to detect the faintest signals: changes in the wind, the footsteps of prey, the call of a warning. Their brains wired themselves to interpret layers of meaning from the subtlest cues. And this heightened listening extended beyond sound. Early humans listened with their eyes, reading facial expressions, body language, and the shifting moods of the group. They listened with their hands, feeling vibrations and textures. They listened with their hearts, sensing intention and emotion. This profound attention created a shared space where communication could happen without words. A look, a pause, a slight shift in posture became loaded with meaning because everyone was attuned, ready to receive and respond. The community became a living, breathing organism, connected through the invisible threads of understanding. Moreover, listening was crucial in the transmission of stories and traditions. Oral histories depended on careful attention to preserve nuance and meaning. Storytellers relied on attentive audiences who not only heard but felt the stories, carrying them forward with reverence and precision. Consider too the role of silence in this listening. Moments of quiet were not empty gaps, but sacred spaces for reflection and connection. Silence allowed time for thought, for emotions to settle, and for deeper understanding to emerge. It was a vital part of communication, a pause pregnant with possibility. In the social realm, listening cultivated empathy and trust. When someone truly listens, they honor the speaker, acknowledge their presence, and invite openness. This ancient practice forged bonds of cooperation essential for group survival. It built the foundation for social structures and leadership based on respect and mutual understanding. And in the natural world, listening connected humans to the rhythms of the earth. The rising and setting of the sun, the migrations of animals, the cycles of growth and decay all were, and interpreted, guiding decisions and shaping cultural practices. This symphony of attentive listening and subtle response created a dynamic dialogue between humans and their world. It fostered a deep sense of belonging and place, an awareness that every sound, gesture, and silence mattered. So as your thoughts grow soft and your breath slows, remember that communication is as much about receiving as sending. The ancient art of listening, focused, patient, and open, was one of the first languages humans ever spoke. From the quiet crackle of firelight to the gentle sway of bodies in ritual, from the knowing glance to the shared silence, this was the foundation of understanding and connection. And it remains so today. Beneath the noise of our modern lives, rest now in this knowledge that the dance of communication began not with the first word, but with the first attentive ear. And here we are again, slowly drifting deeper into the ancient realm where silence spoke louder than words, and every gesture carried the weight of meaning. If your mind still lingers with me, let us now explore one of the most fascinating dimensions of Stone Age communication: the power of shared ritual and collective experience, a language beyond language that bound communities and shaped their very existence. So far, we have seen how gestures, sounds, symbols, and attentive listening crafted the foundation of communication. But humans, even in those earliest times, were not merely practical beings. They were seekers of meaning, explorers of the sacred and the mysterious. This yearning gave birth to rituals, ceremonies, and performances that transcended ordinary talk and entered the realm of the profound. Imagine a circle of people gathered beneath a moonlit sky. The fire crackles, shadows leap and fall upon faces painted with ochre and charcoal. The air thrums with the steady beat of drums, the rising and falling chants of voices weaving together in unison. Hands move in synchronized dance, bodies sway, feet stamp in time with the rhythm of the earth itself. This is no random gathering. It is a ritual, a shared language of presence, emotion, and belief. No words are needed to understand the significance. The ritual speaks through the body, the sound, the sacred space. It is a conversation between humans and the unseen spirits, ancestors, forces of nature. Rituals were the ultimate expression of nonverbal communication, a symphony of sensation and symbolism. Through dance music and ceremony, Stone Age people connected with each other, with the world around them, and with realms beyond perception. These ceremonies marked life's milestones: birth, coming of age, death, and the cycles of nature, seasons, hunts, celestial events. The power of ritual lay in its ability to create shared experience, to build trust and cohesion. Participants moved as one, their individual identities dissolving into the collective whole. In that unity, communication transcended words and logic, reaching into the emotional and spiritual core of being. Consider too the role of objects within these rituals: carved bones, feathers, painted stones, masks, all imbued with meaning and power. These artifacts were not mere decorations, they were messages and tools, bridging the human and the divine. Wearing a mask could transform the wearer into a spirit, enabling communication beyond the ordinary. The sounds of ritual chants, hums, drums carried messages of rhythm and intention. Repetition and pattern evoked trance states, opening the mind to visions and insights. This auditory language was ancient and universal, weaving communities together across time and space. Even the environment played a role. The choice of place was deliberate and meaningful. Caves, groves, riverbanks were sanctuaries, places where the veil between worlds was thin. The setting itself spoke, shaping the ritual's power and message. Through these shared rituals, early humans created a language of belonging and identity. They articulated values, fears, hopes, and dreams. Ritual was a living dialogue, constantly renewed and reinterpreted by each generation. And it is in these ancient ceremonies that we glimpse the roots of art, religion, and culture. Communication was not merely practical, it was transformative. It was a way of making sense of existence, of connecting with the mystery that surrounds us all. So, as your eyelids grow heavier and your breathing slows, know that the language of ritual of movement, sound, symbol, and shared presence was one of humanity's earliest and most profound ways of speaking. It was a language without words but full of meaning, alive and vibrant beneath the surface of time. Rest now, cradled by this ancient knowledge. Tomorrow, we will continue our journey, peeling back more layers of how Stone Age people communicated and connected in ways that still echo within us. And so, as the night deepens and the stars wheel silently overhead, our journey through the ancient echoes of human communication carries us onward. If your mind still clings to these whispered stories, let us now turn our attention to the profound interplay between environment and expression, the ways in which Stone Age people not only communicated with each other, but also with the very land and elements that surrounded them. We have walked together through gestures, symbols, ritual, and shared stories, but the environment was itself a language, a living, breathing canvas for expression. To the Stone Age mind, the world was not a mere backdrop, but an active participant in communication, a dialogue of stone, water, wind, and fire. Imagine the towering cliffs and winding rivers, the dense forests and vast plains. Each feature bore meaning, each place held stories and significance. Early humans understood the land as a complex system of signs, markings, and signals, messages etched in rock, whispered by the wind, painted on earth. One striking example is the use of landscape as a medium for storytelling and memory. Certain places, caves with vivid paintings, rock formations shaped like animals, or sacred springs served as anchors for narratives and communal identity. A cave might tell the story of a great hunt or a mythic ancestor. A river bend might mark a boundary or a site of ritual importance. By moving through the landscape, people engaged in a form of walking communication, where the journey itself was a narrative. Paths were more than routes, they were threads linking past, present, and future. Traveling a known trail was a way of invoking shared memories and reaffirming connection to land and tribe. This intimate relationship with place shaped not only stories but practical communication. Natural landmarks served as guides and signals. A distinctive tree or rock might be a meeting point, a warning of danger, or a marker for hunting grounds. The environment became a map and a message, understood through collective knowledge passed down orally and experientially. And then there was the soundscape, the natural chorus of the Stone Age world. The rush of rivers, the calls of animals, the rustle of leaves in the wind. Early humans were keen listeners, attuned to these sounds as both environmental cues and forms of communication. Sometimes human voices and instruments merged seamlessly with this natural music, blurring the line between nature and culture. The echo of a call across a valley might mimic a bird's song. A drum beat might echo the rhythm of footsteps or thunder. This sonic interplay created a shared acoustic space, a language of nature and human expression intertwined. Fire, too, was a potent communicator. Beyond providing warmth and light, the smoke rising from a distant fire could signal presence or warning. The color and thickness of smoke might convey messages: white smoke for peace, dark for danger. Fires were gathering points, symbols of life and community, their flickering tongues speaking silently to those watching from afar. Moreover, early humans engaged with natural materials to create objects laden with meaning. Stones, bones, feathers, and shells were crafted not only for utility, but as communicative tools that told stories, declared status, or invoked spiritual power. Each carefully chosen and shaped item was a message in itself. Consider also the cyclical patterns of nature, day and night, seasons, migrations that structured life and communication. These rhythms were encoded in ritual and practice, shaping when and how people gathered, hunted, or rested. Understanding these cycles was a form of communication with time itself, a conversation with the forces that governed existence. Through this deep communion with the environment, Stone Age people cultivated a holistic communication that transcended the human alone. They were participants in a vast network of signals and meanings, listening and responding not only to each other, but to the land, the sky, and the unseen world. As you sink deeper into rest, let this awareness wash over you. that human communication is not confined to words or even human interaction alone. It is a dialogue with all that surrounds us: nature, time, spirit. This ancient interconnectedness, born in the Stone Age, pulses quietly beneath the surface of our modern lives. So rest now, cradled in the vast web of connection that stretches from the first flicker of firelight to the silent night you inhabit. Tomorrow, we will continue to unravel the mysteries of communication, moving ever closer to the dawn of language itself. And so, as the embers of night glow softly and your thoughts drift deeper into the vastness of time, let us continue to unravel the fascinating layers of communication in the Stone Age, this time turning our gaze inward into the very heart of human cognition and emotion, the unseen landscapes of the mind that shaped how our ancestors connected beyond the visible world. We have journeyed through gestures, symbols, rituals, and the intimate dialogue with nature itself. But communication is not only external, it is an inner symphony as well, a dance of thoughts, feelings, intentions, and imagination that gives rise to meaning. The Stone Age mind, though ancient, was rich, complex, and deeply reflective. Imagine the quiet moments by the fire, when the tribe rests and the day's bustle fades away. In these moments, the mind wanders, thinking, dreaming, reflecting. How did our ancestors understand each other's thoughts and feelings without the words we now take for granted? How did empathy, the ability to feel what another feels, begin to weave its way through their social fabric? This inner landscape of empathy and shared understanding was crucial. It allowed early humans to anticipate others' actions, intentions, and emotions. When one hunter sensed fear or hesitation in a companion, a subtle gesture or reassuring glance could calm the group and prevent disaster. This unspoken emotional intelligence was a vital channel of communication. Beyond empathy, imagination played a key role. Our ancestors were not only reacting to their environment, but imagining possibilities, planning hunts, envisioning stories, creating myths. This capacity for abstract thought and creativity fueled communication that transcended the immediate, reaching into the realm of dreams and the spiritual. Storytelling, which we have seen as central to Stone Age communication, relied on this imaginative faculty. Tales were not mere facts, they were woven from memory, symbolism, and invention, carrying lessons and truths through metaphor and metaphorical action. The storyteller's mind bridged the seen and unseen, past and future, creating worlds that listeners could enter and learn from. Consider also the development of intentionality, the awareness that one can shape another's thoughts or feelings through deliberate communication. Early humans began to recognize that a look, a sound, or a movement could influence others. This awareness sparked more complex social dynamics, leadership, persuasion, and cooperation. And with these mental leaps came the budding seeds of language, the structured, shared system of symbols and sounds that could encode abstract ideas and complex narratives. But before words could be formed, the mind had to conceive of the self and others as beings with distinct thoughts and feelings, what modern science calls theory of mind. This theory of mind underpinned trust and deception alike. Early humans could share secrets, create alliances, or even mislead rivals. Communication was not always straightforward. It was a dance of intentions, interpretations, and meanings layered beneath the surface. All of this mental and emotional complexity unfolded within small, close-knit groups where cooperation was vital. The bonds forged through shared experience and understanding created resilient communities capable of weathering the harsh challenges of their world. And in these groups, the mind's invisible dialogues, those silent conversations of empathy, anticipation, and imagination were the foundation upon which gestures, symbols, and rituals were built. Without this rich internal communication, the external expressions would have lacked depth and meaning. So as your thoughts quiet and your breath slows, carry with you this profound insight. Human communication is not only the exchange of words or signs, but the meeting of minds and hearts across space and time. It is a conversation of souls, reaching beyond the tangible into the vast interior of consciousness. From the flickering firelight to the silent gaze, from imagined worlds to shared emotions, this inner communication shaped the earliest human stories and lives, and it continues to shape us today. And now, as the gentle tide of night carries us further into the depths of ancient time, we continue our slow, deliberate journey through the myriad ways Stone Age people communicated not merely with words or symbols, but through a rich tapestry of experience, presence, and connection that defies easy description. If you remain with me, let us explore together the role of ritualized movement and the emergence of early performance and art form that breathed life into silent expression and bound communities in shared meaning. We've seen how gestures and symbols paved the way for storytelling, how attentive listening wove subtle threads of understanding, and how the inner landscapes of empathy and imagination fostered a dialogue beyond words. But human bodies, those remarkable instruments of expression, were equally vital in this ancient dance of communication. Movement became language, and performance became ceremony. Picture a gathering at dusk, a clearing surrounded by ancient trees, the sky streaked with the last glow of sunlight. A group assembles, bodies adorned with pigments, feathers, and carved ornaments. The air hums with anticipation. Suddenly, the leader steps forward, beginning a sequence of movements that are not random but precise, deliberate, and charged with meaning. This is an early form of dance, not mere entertainment, but a sacred dialogue conveyed through rhythm, posture, and gesture. Each motion tells a story, reenacts a hunt, invokes a spirit, or celebrates the cycles of nature. The participants, both performers and observers, become co-creators of a shared experience, a living narrative without words. Movement in these rituals transcended individual expression. It was communal, synchronizing heartbeats and breaths. The dance forged unity, reinforcing social bonds and collective identity. The repetition of patterns, circles, spirals, steps echoed the natural rhythms of the world, mirroring the cycles of sun, moon, and seasons. Through this embodied language, knowledge and values were passed down, preserved in muscle memory and communal participation. Young members of the tribe learn not from texts, but from immersion, watching, imitating, becoming part of the ongoing performance of culture. Music often accompanied these dances, the beating of drums fashioned from animal hides, the clapping of hands, the hum of voices joined in chant or song. This fusion of sound and movement heightened the communicative power, creating a multisensory language that transcended speech. Consider also the transformative power of masks and body paint within these performances. Masks could conceal and reveal, allowing wearers to take on the identities of animals, spirits, or ancestors. Body paint signified status, role, or intent. Colors and patterns coded messages visible to all. These performances were liminal spaces, thresholds between the ordinary and the sacred, the human and the spiritual. In these moments, communication became an experience of transcendence, connecting individuals not only with each other, but with forces beyond comprehension. The emergence of ritualized movement and performance also marks a crucial step toward formalized storytelling and, eventually, language. By embodying narrative through motion and sound, early humans laid the groundwork for complex symbolic communication, and the echoes of these ancient performances ripple through time, resonating in our modern dances, theater, and ceremonies. The human need to express, to connect beyond words, remains as vital today as it was tens of thousands of years ago. As you drift gently into sleep, wrapped in the quiet embrace of these ancient rhythms, remember that communication began as movement, a dance of bodies, breath, and hearts united in shared meaning. It was a language older than words, a story told in the language of life itself. And so, as the quiet hours stretch onward and the ancient fires flicker low, let us continue this gentle journey into the profound depths of Stone Age communication, a journey that takes us ever closer to the very roots of what it means to be human. If you still linger in this space between wakefulness and dreams, allow me to guide you now into the delicate art of storytelling itself, the weaving of words, sounds, and gestures into tapestries of meaning that shaped communities, cultures, and consciousness. We have traversed the landscape of silent gestures, symbolic marks, ritual dance, and the attentive mind. But the heartbeat of Stone Age communication pulses most strongly in the stories told, oral traditions that transformed isolated moments into enduring narratives. These stories were more than entertainment. They were vessels of knowledge, identity, morality, and belonging. Imagine the flickering firelight casting dancing shadows on the faces of a gathered tribe. An elder begins to speak not with written script or formalized language, but with voice, expression, and movement. The story unfolds, rich with metaphor and meaning, blending real and the mythical, the past and the present. Each listener is not merely an audience but a participant, absorbing, interpreting, and even adding to the tale. Storytelling in this context was a sacred act. It required memory, creativity, and empathy. The storyteller was both keeper and creator, preserving ancestral wisdom while adapting it to the present moment. The stories told were guides to life, lessons about survival, warnings about danger, explanations of natural phenomena, and explorations of the human spirit. These narratives often used repetition, rhythm, and formulaic phrases to aid memory and engagement. The cadence of words became a kind of music, drawing listeners into a shared emotional space. Stories might be punctuated with gestures, facial expressions, or changes in tone, each adding layers of meaning. The content of these stories reflected the world and concerns of Stone Age people: hunts, seasons, family, spirits, and the mysteries of birth and death. Through myth and legend, they made sense of their place in the cosmos and their relationship to the natural and supernatural realms. Importantly, storytelling was communal. Stories were told and retold in group settings, reinforcing social bonds and shared values. Each telling could vary, allowing adaptation to audience, occasion, or context, but the core truth remained intact. This dynamic process kept the tradition alive and relevant. Storytelling also served as a training ground for communication skills, teaching younger members about language, social norms, and emotional intelligence. Through stories, complex ideas could be conveyed simply, making knowledge accessible and memorable. And as language evolved, so too did storytelling, becoming more elaborate and nuanced. The seeds planted in these oral traditions would one day grow into written literature, theater, and all forms of narrative art. As you sink deeper into the calm embrace of sleep, remember this: storytelling is the heartbeat of human connection, a bridge between mind and heart, past and future. It is a language as old as humanity itself, a timeless dance of meaning carried on the breath and voice. Rest now, cradled by the ancient voices that still echo in every story told, every song sung, every word spoken. And so, as the soft veil of night continues to envelop us, and the stories of old whisper faintly through the shadows, let us deepen our journey into the wondrous world of Stone Age communication. If your mind still wanders this ancient path, then join me now as we explore the emergence and significance of early vocalizations and the birth of proto-language, the very sounds that would one day evolve into the complex spoken tongues that define us today. Before words as we know them existed, before alphabets or scribbles marked stone, our ancestors relied on a rich palette of vocal sounds: grunts, cries, hums, and calls that carried meaning far beyond their simplicity. These primitive utterances formed the first bridges between mind and world, between individuals and groups. Imagine a quiet forest glade, alive with the sounds of wind and birdsong, when suddenly a sharp call pierces the air, a warning, a greeting, an expression of emotion. This call is immediate, urgent, and vital. It carries information that can mean the difference between safety and danger, life and death. These early vocalizations were tightly linked to emotions: fear, excitement, curiosity, joy. A rising pitch might signal alarm, a low hum might soothe. The tone, rhythm, and volume conveyed nuanced meaning even without words. Our ancestors learned to interpret these sounds with precision, attuning to the subtle shifts in vocal expression. Over time, these sounds grew more varied and intentional. They became tools for social bonding: a laughter shared at a successful hunt, a soothing murmur to a child, a celebratory chant in ritual. The voice was not merely a means of conveying fact, but a channel of emotion and connection. This vocal play laid the groundwork for proto-language, an early system of meaningful sounds that could be combined and repeated to communicate more complex ideas. Though lacking the grammar and syntax of modern language, proto-language represented a monumental leap in human cognition and sociality. Consider the way these sounds might have been paired with gestures and expressions, creating a multimodal communication that was richer and more effective. A grunt accompanied by a pointed finger, a shout with raised arms — these combinations enhanced clarity and impact. Proto-language also allowed for planning and cooperation. Early humans could coordinate hunts, signal danger, or share knowledge about food sources in ways impossible through gesture alone. This increased group cohesion and efficiency, supporting survival and success. The development of vocal control, the ability to modulate pitch, tone, and timing, was a crucial biological and neurological advancement. It required changes in brain structure and anatomy, reflecting the deep intertwining of biology and culture in human evolution. Importantly, this vocal communication fostered social learning and cultural transmission. Songs, chants, and vocal rituals became vehicles for passing down knowledge and tradition. The voice carried the collective memory of the group, echoing through generations. And as vocal communication grew more sophisticated, it set the stage for the emergence of language-proper words with agreed meanings, grammar rules, and the ability to express abstract concepts. But this dawn was gradual, built on the foundation of sounds and meanings carefully shaped over millennia. So as you drift deeper into rest, let the ancient sounds resonate within you, the first human voices rising through the forest, the calls of connection and survival, the murmurs of early song. These were the seeds from which our rich tapestry of language grew. Rest now in the knowledge that the voice is among our oldest gifts, a bridge across time, culture, and understanding, connecting us to those first storytellers and singers who spoke into the night so long ago. And now, as the night deepens and the quiet hum of ancient echoes surrounds us, let us continue our exploration into the heart of Stone Age communication, tracing the remarkable journey from primitive vocalizations toward the emergence of structured language, the sacred dance of sound and meaning that would come to define our humanity. In our previous reflections, we witnessed the earliest utterances, calls, and cries bursting forth from the depths of survival and emotion, the initial threads woven into what scholars call proto-language. But how did these simple sounds evolve into the rich, complex languages that form the backbone of human connection today? Let us wander into this gradual and profound transformation. Imagine the world of our ancestors, a vibrant mosaic of sounds, sights, and sensations. In this world, communication was a living, dynamic process, shaped by necessity, creativity, and social bonds. Vocal sounds began to diversify, not just in pitch and tone, but in purpose. Specific calls might become associated with particular animals, dangers, or actions. Over time, these vocal signals grew increasingly conventionalized, meaning agreed upon within the group, forming the building blocks of vocabulary. This process, called semantic shift, allowed sounds to stand for objects, actions, or ideas beyond immediate perception. A particular grunt might mean water or danger, while a series of calls could describe a hunt or the arrival of strangers. The mind's capacity to link sound and meaning in abstract ways was a cognitive revolution. But language is more than vocabulary. The leap from isolated words to grammar, the rules governing how words combine, was another milestone. Grammar allowed speakers to express relationships, sequences, questions, and nuances. Suddenly, communication could encompass past and future, cause and effect, possibility and desire. Early humans likely experimented with patterns, rhythms, and repetitions to convey meaning. Repeated syllables, variations in tone, and structured pauses helped listeners parse complex messages. These proto-grammatical features became scaffolding for more elaborate language. Social complexity drove linguistic innovation. As groups grew larger and more interconnected, the need for precise and efficient communication increased. Language became a tool for cooperation, negotiation, teaching, and storytelling. It built bridges of understanding where gestures and sounds alone might fall short. The emotional and performative aspects of speech also flourished. Tone emphasis and body language enhanced verbal communication, turning it into a full-bodied experience. Storytellers could captivate audiences, leaders could inspire followers, and lovers could express affection, all through the nuanced interplay of sound and meaning. Biologically, this linguistic evolution was supported by changes in the brain and vocal apparatus. Regions involved in speech production and comprehension expanded, and control over breathing and vocal cords improved. These physical adaptations enabled the fine-tuned articulation necessary for complex language. Language also fostered cultural identity and cohesion. Dialects and unique expressions signaled group belonging, history, and tradition. Through language, early humans forged not only connections but also distinct cultures. And yet this journey was slow and incremental, marked by countless small steps rather than sudden leaps. Each sound, each gesture, each shared story contributed to the mosaic of language, building layer upon layer across generations. As you settle deeper into rest, let your mind cradle this vision, the voices of countless ancestors, shaping sounds into words, weaving patterns into grammar, giving birth to language. These echoes form the foundation of every conversation, every story, every expression of thought that follows. Rest now, Held in the timeless embrace of language's ancient birth, a gift that connects us across millennia, across cultures, and across the silent night that stretches before you. And so, as the gentle night continues to cradle your thoughts, and the echoes of ancient voices softly fade into a quiet hum, we journey deeper into the extraordinary evolution of human communication. If you remain here, drifting with me between worlds of past and present, let us now explore the fascinating ways in which Stone Age people used not just voice and gesture, but the entire landscape of their senses, the textures, colors, smells, and rhythms of their environment to converse with one another and with the world itself. Language, as we have traced, began with sounds and gestures, but it blossomed into something far richer and more intricate. Early humans were deeply embodied beings, connected not only through words, but through a symphony of sensory experiences that conveyed meaning in ways subtle and profound. Consider the role of color and pattern in this primordial communication. Body paint, made from ochre, charcoal, and other natural pigments, transformed skin into a canvas of expression. Patterns might signal status, tribe, or mood. Stripes and dots might tell stories of hunts or victories. Reds and blacks might mark sacred moments or rites of passage. These visual signs spoke without sound, communicating layers of identity and meaning instantly recognizable to those who shared the cultural code. The smell was another silent language. The sense of smoke, plants, and earth mingled with personal odors, creating an olfactory backdrop rich with information. Burning specific herbs in rituals or gatherings conveyed intention and spirit. The fragrance of certain flowers or resins might mark territory or signal readiness for social interaction. Humans of the Stone Age, attuned to these nuances, bred their world with noses as much as ears and eyes. Texture too played its part in communication. The feel of materials, rough hides, smooth stones, woven fibers carried symbolic weight. Objects passed from hand to hand were tactile messages, tokens of trust, alliances, or gifts. The act of touch, from a reassuring clasp to a guiding hand, transmitted emotions and intentions that words could scarcely capture. Sound itself extended beyond vocalization into rhythms and environmental noises. The steady pulse of drums, the whisper of wind through reeds, the clapping of hands in patterns, these created acoustic codes understood and shared by the community. Such rhythms structured ceremonies, hunts, and daily life, providing a sonic framework that connected individuals and events. Even the play of light and shadow was a medium of communication. The flicker of firelight on cave walls brought paintings to life, imbuing them with movement and spirit. Shadows cast by gestures might become signs or symbols in ritual, transforming the intangible into visual messages. In this multisensory world, communication was holistic, a seamless blend of sight, sound, touch, smell, and movement. It was an embodied language that connected people not just intellectually but physically and emotionally. These sensory expressions also deepened communal bonds. Shared rituals involving paint, scent, touch, and rhythm created powerful experiences of belonging and identity. Participation was not passive, it was immersive, engaging the whole being. Moreover, this rich sensory language helped transmit cultural knowledge. Techniques for making pigments, preparing ritual scents, crafting objects, all were passed down through sensory learning. The body remembered what the mind could only partially grasp. As you lie in stillness, wrapped in the quiet of the night, let this awareness settle within you, that human communication is far more than words or symbols alone. It is a living, breathing mosaic of sensory experience, woven from the textures, color, sounds, and scents that surround us. From the painted skin of ancient ancestors to the crackling fire and the fragrant smoke. These ancient languages of the senses form the foundation of human connection, a language spoken not just with voices, but with the whole self. Rest now, cradled by this ancient sensory symphony, and prepare to journey further still into the story of communication that began long before words. And as the quiet night stretches further, and the world outside settles into its gentle rhythms, let us wander together into a new chapter of our journey through Stone Age communication, a chapter where the language of touch and physical proximity reveals its profound role in binding early humans to one another, shaping communities, emotions, and survival. So far, we have explored the sounds that echoed through forests, the colors that painted bodies, the dances that moved spirits, and the stories whispered by firelight. But the most immediate and intimate form of communication was perhaps the one we often overlook: the language of touch. Touch is the first sense we experience, the earliest connection we know. In the Stone Age, touch was not merely sensation but a vital form of communication that conveyed comfort, warning, affection, and authority. In the absence of spoken words or written signs, a gentle hand on the shoulder could soothe a frightened child, a firm grip could signal urgency or command, a shared embrace could strengthen bonds and ease tensions. Imagine a mother cradling her newborn, the soft brush of skin against skin speaking volumes about safety and love. Picture hunters coordinating a silent movement through the underbrush, their fingertips brushing to signal direction or caution. Feel the warmth of communal bodies gathered for warmth or ritual, each touch weaving trust and connection. Touch extended beyond human contact to the world around. Hands shaping tools, molding clay, carving bone, all were acts of tactile communication, where the feel of materials informed creation and meaning. The skilled touch of a craftsman spoke of knowledge, passed down through generations, a silent dialogue between maker and matter. Physical proximity was equally meaningful. Standing close or apart could signal social status, invitation, or exclusion. The way bodies aligned in group settings reflected unspoken hierarchies and relationships. In gatherings, seating arrangements and postures told stories of power, respect, and intimacy. Moreover, touch played a crucial role in healing and ritual. The laying on of hands, massage, and the application of natural salves were acts imbued with meaning and intention. These tactile practices communicated care, transformation, and connection to spiritual forces. The sensitivity to touch fostered heightened awareness of personal space and boundaries, a subtle communication that maintained harmony within groups. A gentle nudge, a hand held briefly, or a careful avoidance of contact all spoke volumes about social norms and relationships. Importantly, this tactile communication was deeply intertwined with emotion. Touch releases oxytocin, the hormone of bonding and trust, and so these physical interactions reinforced not only messages but feelings. They created a somatic language where body and mind met. In the absence of writing and technology, touch was a bridge connecting individuals, communities, and even generations. It was a language written on the skin, felt in the heart, and remembered in the muscles. As you lay still and breathe slowly, sense the ancient language of touch that flows beneath the surface of your skin, connecting you to those first humans who communicated through the simple, profound power of contact. Rest now in the warmth of this tactile legacy, knowing that long before words, it was touch that built the first bridges between souls. And so, as the night deepens and the world outside slips into its silent embrace, we continue our journey through the ancient currents of human communication, moving now toward the remarkable role of facial expression and eye contact, the subtle, powerful languages of the face that spoke volumes without a single word. If you've ever noticed how a glance can convey warning, warmth, curiosity, or sorrow, then you have glimpsed the profound language that Stone Age people mastered long before spoken tongues emerged. The face, a living canvas of emotion and intention, was among the first instruments of communication. Imagine a tribe gathered at dusk, faces illuminated by flickering firelight. In this circle, a single raised eyebrow, a fleeting smile, or a tightened jaw could change the course of conversation or action. These expressions, so natural to us now, were essential survival tools then that guided group behavior, fostered trust, or warned of danger. The eyes, in particular, held a special place. Direct gaze could assert dominance or invite connection. Averting eyes might signal submission or contemplation. The silent dialogue of eye contact was a dance of power, empathy, and social nuance that structured interactions within the group. Early humans developed an acute sensitivity to these subtle cues. Reading faces required attention and empathy, skills honed through necessity. Misreading a look could lead to conflict or misunderstanding. Understanding it could strengthen bonds and cooperation. Facial expressions also served to regulate emotion within groups. A calming smile could soothe tensions. A look of concern could prepare others for caution. This nonverbal regulation helped maintain social harmony in tight-knit communities where cooperation was vital. Moreover, expressions were intertwined with vocal communication. Tone and facial movement combined to give depth and clarity to messages. A raised voice accompanied by a stern face was far more impactful than either alone. The face was also a mirror of inner states: joy, fear, grief. excitement allowing others to empathize and respond appropriately. This shared emotional landscape created a sense of belonging and mutual understanding. In ritual and storytelling, facial expression enhanced meaning. The storyteller's changing gaze and expression drew listeners into the narrative, while participants' responsive looks reinforced communal connection. Importantly, these facial languages were universal in many respects, transcending specific cultures and epochs. The smile, the frown, the wide-eyed look of surprise all echo through time, binding humanity across millennia. As you rest now, feel the ancient power of the face, and eyes the silent storytellers, the intimate communicators. Sense the unspoken messages they carry, connecting you to those earliest humans whose lives were woven with glance and expression. Rest in this silent language, knowing that long before words, faces spoke with clarity and depth that transcended sound, shaping the fabric of human connection from the very beginning. And so, as the quiet night deepens around you and the whispers of ancient times continue to echo softly, let us carry on our journey into the rich tapestry of Stone Age communication. Having explored the silent yet powerful language of the face and eyes, we now turn our attention to another profound, often overlooked medium. The sounds of nature themselves, the primal orchestra that shaped and reflected early human communication. Imagine, if you will, the world as it was tens of thousands of years ago. The forest teemed with life, the calls of birds, the rustling of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze, the distant roar of a waterfall, the crackle of fire, and the subtle hum of insects weaving through the underbrush. These sounds formed a natural symphony, a sonic environment in which early humans lived, hunted, and communicated. To the Stone Age ear, the sounds of the wild were not mere background noise, they were vital messages, cues to survival and signals embedded with meaning. The call of a particular bird might warn of nearby predators. The shifting of leaves could indicate the presence of prey or rival groups. The rhythmic tapping of a woodpecker echoed a natural beat that could inspire mimicry or signal timing. Early humans learned to listen deeply to attune their ears to this complex acoustic environment. This attentiveness was not passive but active, a form of communication with nature itself. By responding to these sounds, mimicking them, or using them as markers, people engaged in a dialogue with their environment. Some researchers suggest that early vocalizations and proto-language may have been inspired by natural sounds, imitations of animal calls or environmental noises that gradually evolved into meaningful signals. This mimicry allowed humans to bridge the gap between themselves and the natural world, weaving their own voices into the existing soundscape. Moreover, the rhythmic patterns of nature, the cycles of day and night, the changing seasons, the migrations of animals were internalized and echoed in human communication. Drumming, chanting, and other repetitive sounds mirrored these natural rhythms, creating a shared temporal language that structured social life and ritual. This deep auditory connection fostered a sense of belonging and harmony with the world. Through sound, early humans felt part of a greater whole, a living, breathing ecosystem of which they were both participants and observers. Sound also played a key role in social bonding and emotional expression. Shared songs and chants strengthened group identity, coordinated communal activities, and expressed collective joy or mourning. The voice, merged with the sounds of nature, became a powerful instrument of connection. As you rest now, enveloped by the quiet of the present, imagine the ancient forest alive with this rich acoustic tapestry, the calls, the rhythms, the echoes that shaped the earliest human dialogues. Feel yourself part of this timeless conversation, where human voice and nature's song intertwine. Let this awareness lull you into a deep and peaceful rest, held by the harmonious interplay of sound and silence that has cradled humanity since its dawn. And as the soft shadows lengthen and the night's hush deepens around you, we continue our voyage through the vast, intricate world of Stone Age communication, a realm where human ingenuity met the natural world in a dance as old as time itself. Having listened to the ancient symphony of nature's sounds, we now turn our attention to another crucial chapter, the development and profound significance of symbols and early art as a language beyond words. Long before the invention of written script, before alphabets or carved inscriptions, our ancestors found ways to express complex ideas, beliefs, and emotions through images and symbols, markings etched into stone, painted on cave walls, or carved into bone and wood. These visual languages transcended the limitations of spoken sounds, reaching into realms of memory, identity, and spirituality. Picture a dimly lit cave, its walls alive with images of animals, abstract patterns, and enigmatic signs. Each stroke of ochre or charcoal carries meaning, a message encoded in shapes and colors. These paintings and carvings are not mere decoration, they are expressions of experience, tools for communication, and bridges between the tangible and the unseen. Symbols condensed complex narratives and concepts into accessible forms. A single image of a bison might evoke not only the animal itself, but also its importance in survival, myth, and ritual. Abstract signs, dots, spirals, handprints may have represented clans, spiritual forces, or cosmic cycles. This visual language served multiple purposes. It preserved collective memory, anchored social cohesion, and acted as a medium for ritual and magic. By inscribing their stories and beliefs onto stone, early humans made the invisible visible, asserting presence and meaning in a vast and often hostile world. Moreover, art was a form of shared experience and teaching. Cave paintings and carvings became spaces for communal gathering and storytelling, where elders could pass wisdom to younger generations. The act of creating art was itself communicative, a ritualistic performance linking creator, community, and spirit. The emergence of symbolic art also reflects a leap in cognitive ability, the capacity for abstraction, imagination, and symbolic thought that underpins human culture. These marks on walls are echoes of minds reaching beyond the immediate, crafting meaning that transcends time and place. These symbols and images were not static, they evolved, adapted and layered with meaning over generations. They became languages of the soul, connecting individuals across distance and time in a shared cultural dialogue. As you relax deeper into the night's embrace, let your mind's eye envision these ancient galleries of expression, the flickering firelight illuminating stories told in pigment and stone. Sense the silent messages carved by hands long gone, but voices still resonant. Rest now, cradled by this timeless art, a language of symbol and spirit that continues to speak through the ages, whispering secrets of our shared humanity. And now, as the night gently enfolds you, and the echoes of ancient stories linger softly in the air, let us delve further into the intricate web of Stone Age communication, this time focusing on the sacred spaces and communal gatherings where these early languages of gesture, sound, and symbol converged into shared experiences of meaning and belonging. Imagine a clearing surrounded by towering trees, where smoke curls upward from a carefully tended fire, its warm glow casting dancing shadows on faces turned toward the storyteller or ritual leader. These gatherings were far more than mere social occasions. They were the crucibles of culture, the stages upon which the dramas of human connection played out. In these spaces, the languages of the body, voice, art, and ritual intertwined seamlessly. Dance, song, storytelling, and symbolic expression came together to create immersive experiences that engaged every sense and bound individuals into a cohesive whole. The ritual itself was a form of communication, performance rich with meaning, intention, and emotion. Movements were choreographed not merely for beauty, but for conveying messages about identity, spirituality, and social order. The collective participation transformed individual experience into communal reality. Through these gatherings, knowledge was transmitted, norms reinforced, and bonds strengthened. The shared rhythms of drumming, chanting, and movement synchronized hearts and minds, fostering a profound sense of unity. The repetition of rituals across seasons and generations anchored cultural memory and provided continuity in an ever-changing world. Consider too the role of leadership and authority within these gatherings. Certain individuals, perhaps elders or shamans, acted as mediators between the human and spiritual realms, guiding communication with unseen forces through language both spoken and symbolic. Their voices, gestures, and presence shaped the flow of communal interaction and understanding. These sacred spaces also served as arenas for negotiation, alliance, and social cohesion. Through ritual, disputes were settled, roles defined, and collective decisions made. Communication here was layered, part practical, part mystical, part emotional, reflecting the complexity of human societies. The power of communal gathering lay not only in the messages conveyed, but in the shared experience itself. Being part of a group engaged in meaningful interaction created a deep sense of belonging and identity that transcended individual differences. As you lie peacefully, enveloped by the calm of night, Envision these ancient gatherings, the crackling fire, the rhythmic beat, the woven stories and dances. Sense the invisible threads of communication that tied each person to the other, to their ancestors, and to the world beyond. Rest now in the knowledge that from these shared moments sprang the rich tapestry of human culture, a living dialogue that continues to evolve and inspire, connecting us across time and space. And so, as the soft night continues to embrace you, and the echoes of ancient fires still flicker gently in the mind's eye, let us delve even deeper into the profound ways Stone Age people connected not only through sound, gesture, and symbol, but through the very architecture of their living spaces and the subtle communication encoded in the places they called home. Our ancestors were not merely passive occupants of the landscape. They were active communicators who shaped their environments to reflect identity, belief, and social structure. The places where they lived, gathered, and created were themselves languages written in earth, stone, and wood. Imagine a village nestled among trees, or beside a riverbank, huts arranged in purposeful patterns, communal spaces defined by natural markers, hearths carefully placed to gather warmth and light. Every element was intentional, conveying messages about group cohesion, status, and function. These arrangements were early forms of spatial communication. The placement of dwellings could signify family ties or social hierarchy. Pathways traced patterns of movement and interaction, and boundaries mark areas of belonging or taboo. Walking through these spaces was a journey through stories and relationships. Moreover, the very materials used in construction carried meaning. Stones might be gathered from sacred sites, timber selected for its strength or symbolic value. Decorations and markings on walls and entrances added layers of communication, signaling identity or protection. Fire, central to daily life, was also a potent communicator. The size and placement of hearths, the smoke rising from the village, could convey messages visible to distant groups, signals of presence, welcome, or warning. These spatial languages extended beyond the village to the landscape itself. Paths, cairns, and other markers guided movement and indicated territory. The landscape became a canvas of memory and meaning, inscribed with human intention. In this way, the built environment was a living text, a record of relationships, beliefs, and histories that shaped and were shaped by the people who inhabited it. Walking through these spaces, one read the social world as clearly as if reading a story. This connection between space and communication also fostered a sense of place and belonging. Homes and villages were anchors of identity, linking individuals to their ancestors, community, and environment. As you rest now, imagine wandering through these ancient settlements, the quiet order, the purposeful design, the silent stories etched into earth and stone. Feel yourself part of a continuum, connected by the spaces we create and the meanings we share. Rest in this awareness that human communication transcends words and gestures, extending into the very ground beneath our feet, the first homes of language, culture, and community. And so, as the night's gentle cloak continues to envelop your thoughts, and the ancient echoes of human connection linger softly in the background, we move forward on our journey into the subtle and profound ways Stone Age people communicated, not just with voices or gestures, but through the sacred art of gifting and exchange. In a world before money or markets, before written contracts or digital transactions, the act of giving was a powerful language in itself, a dialogue of trust, respect, alliance, and social bonds. Gifts were not mere objects, they were messages, tokens of relationship, and symbols of shared life. Imagine a scene deep in the forest or on a riverbank, where one person offers another a carefully crafted tool, a beautifully shaped stone, or a piece of rare shell. This act carries meaning beyond the physical item. It is an invitation to friendship, a gesture of goodwill, or a declaration of status. Gifting in Stone Age communities was woven into the fabric of social life. It created obligations and expectations, established alliances between individuals or groups, and reinforced networks of support that were vital for survival. Through the exchange of gifts, people communicated intentions, gratitude, and trust without uttering a word. Moreover, the quality, rarity, and timing of gifts conveyed nuanced messages. A finely crafted spear point presented at a communal feast could signify honor and respect, while a timely offering of food might express care and concern. Gifts were laden with meaning shaped by cultural context. The reciprocity inherent in gifting formed the basis of early social economies. Exchanges were not transactions aimed at profit, but ongoing dialogues of mutual aid and relationship building. Failure to reciprocate could signal disrespect or rupture social ties. This practice extended beyond material goods. The sharing of knowledge, stories, and skills were gifts in their own right, intangible exchanges that fortified community and culture. Teaching a young hunter how to track game or sharing the story of a sacred site were acts of profound communication. The ritualized giving and receiving often took place during communal gatherings, where the collective witnessed and reinforced social bonds. These moments were performances of trust and identity, strengthening the fabric of society. In understanding this language of exchange, we glimpse a world where communication was a living, dynamic process where action spoke louder than words, and relationships were nurtured through tangible expressions of care. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine the hands extended in friendship and alliance, the subtle gestures that built bridges of trust across time and space. Feel the power of giving as an ancient language, one that continues to shape human connection today. Rest now, cradled by the silent eloquence of gifts, the timeless dialogue of hearts reaching across the silence, weaving community from the threads of generosity and respect. And so, as the gentle embrace of night deepens and your mind lingers on the rich tapestry of ancient human connection, let us now journey into another vital aspect of Stone Age communication, the role of music and rhythm as universal languages that transcended words, bridging individuals, groups, and even realms beyond the visible. Imagine a gathering under the vast, star-studded sky, where the steady beat of drums pulses through the night air, accompanied by the rhythmic clapping of hands and the soft hum of voices rising in song. This is not mere entertainment, but a profound mode of expression and connection, where music and rhythm become powerful tools of communication. Music in the Stone Age was more than melody. It was a multisensory experience woven into the fabric of daily life and ritual. The rhythm synchronized bodies and minds, fostering a shared temporal space where individuals moved as one, strengthening social bonds and collective identity. Consider how the heartbeat, like drumming, mimicked the very pulse of life, resonating deeply within the human body. This primal connection to rhythm helped regulate emotions, coordinate group activities like hunting or dancing, and even facilitated trance states and spiritual ceremonies. Singing, too, was a vital communicative act. Songs told stories, encoded cultural knowledge, and evoked emotions that words alone could not capture. The human voice, flexible and expressive, could convey joy, sorrow, warning, or celebration, often enhanced by repetition and call and response patterns that engaged the entire community. The instruments of this ancient music, simple drums, rattles, flutes made from bone or wood, were extensions of human creativity and communication. Their sounds carried messages across distances, summoned spirits, or marked significant moments in the life of the group. Music also functioned as a mnemonic device, helping to preserve oral histories and traditions. The melodies and rhythms etched stories into memory, ensuring their survival across generations without written text. Moreover, the communal nature of music fostered empathy and unity. Moving and singing together aligned emotional states and strengthened trust, a biological and social glue essential for the survival of small, close-knit groups. This universal language of music transcended cultural boundaries, forging connections between groups and individuals through shared experience and emotional resonance. Even today, the power of rhythm and song echoes this ancient legacy, reminding us of our deep-rooted need for connection beyond words. As you settle into the quiet of night, feel the ancient beat reverberate within you, the pulse of drums long silenced, but still alive in the rhythm of your heart. Let the melodies of our ancestors lull you into peaceful rest, cradled by the timeless song of humanity. Rest now, embraced by this universal language, woven from the threads of rhythm and voice, connecting us all through the ages. And as the night stretches ever onward, enfolding your thoughts in its quiet embrace, we continue our journey into the vast, intricate world of Stone Age communication. Turning now to the subtle yet powerful language of gesture and body movement, the primal choreography that spoke volumes long before the first words were uttered. Imagine a group of early humans gathered near a flickering fire, their bodies alive with expression. A lifted hand, a sudden glance, a deliberate step forward, all these movements carried meaning. In the absence of written language or complex speech, Gesture was the essential medium through which intentions, warnings, invitations, and emotions were conveyed. Gesture, unlike spoken language, was immediate and visceral. A sweeping arm could signal the presence of a finger pointed toward danger, a nod could confirm understanding, while a shake of the head expressed refusal. These movements were universally understood within the group, forming a rich tapestry of communication that transcended spoken sound. The body itself became an instrument of language. Posture conveyed confidence or submission. Facial expressions added nuance to gestures, enriching their meaning. Dance and ritual movements were rehearsed and shared, embodying stories, beliefs, and social roles. This gestural language was not static but dynamic, adaptable to context, emotion, and necessity. The complexity of gestures increased alongside social structures, allowing individuals to communicate abstract ideas, coordinate group actions, and establish social bonds. Moreover, gesture worked hand in hand with vocal sounds. The combination created a multimodal language far richer than either could achieve alone. This synergy laid the groundwork for the development of spoken language and symbolic thought. Gesture also played a crucial role in teaching and learning. Demonstrating how to make tools, hunt, or prepare food relied on clear, intentional movements that communicated knowledge across generations without the need for words. In moments of heightened emotion, fear, joy, grief, gesture became even more pronounced, channeling feelings that words could not fully capture. These physical expressions fostered empathy and understanding, reinforcing social cohesion. As you rest now, picture the silent conversation of hands and bodies around the ancient fire, the fluid dance of gestures weaving a language of connection and survival. Sense the profound eloquence of movement that speaks directly to the heart and mind. Rest in this ancient dance of communication, a language born of the body, timeless and universal, echoing in every gesture and motion we make today. And now, as the gentle night deepens and the whispers of ancient worlds settle softly into the air around you, we continue to trace the remarkable evolution of human communication in the Stone Age, turning our attention to one of the most profound and enduring mediums, storytelling, the art of weaving experience into narrative, binding individuals and communities through shared tales. Storytelling is the thread that connects us across time, a living bridge spanning generations and cultures. Long before words were recorded on parchment or stone, stories flowed freely from mouth to ear, shaping the identity, beliefs, and knowledge of early human societies. Imagine sitting by a crackling fire, the circle of your tribe drawn close as the eldest begins to speak. The voice rises and falls, painting vivid images of hunts, of fierce animals, of the spirits that roam the forests and rivers. Each story is more than entertainment. It is a vessel carrying wisdom, lessons on survival, morality, the natural world, and the mysteries beyond. The narrative forms were rich and varied, myths explaining the origins of the world, heroic tales celebrating bravery, cautionary fables warning against danger, and humorous anecdotes weaving laughter into communal life. Through these stories, abstract concepts found shape and meaning, making the unseen forces of nature and spirit accessible. The act of storytelling itself was a performative ritual. The storyteller's voice, gestures, facial expressions, and rhythm worked in harmony to captivate and engage the audience. Storytelling was a communal event, inviting participation through responses, questions, and shared emotions. These oral traditions were carefully crafted and transmitted, evolving over time yet retaining core truths. They provided a moral compass and a sense of belonging, grounding individuals in their place within the social and cosmic order. Importantly, storytelling transcended the mere recounting of facts. It shaped reality itself. Belief in stories influenced behavior, strengthened social norms, and cultivated respect for nature and the sacred. Stories were living entities, powerful, malleable, and deeply felt. In societies without writing, memory was paramount. The repetition, rhythm, and mnemonic devices embedded in stories ensured their preservation and accurate transmission. The communal aspect of storytelling reinforced social bonds, making memory a shared treasure. As you lie still and listen to the quiet night, imagine the ancient voices weaving their tales, the timeless stories that echo within us all. Feel the power of narrative, the oldest form of human communication that continues to shape who we are and how we connect. Rest now, embraced by the warmth of these ancient stories, carried across time by voice and heart. weaving the fabric of human culture and connection. And so, as the night deepens and the soft murmur of ancient voices fades into the quiet, we continue our journey through the vast landscape of Stone Age communication. Having explored the magic of storytelling, let us now turn to a profound and tactile form of expression: body painting, tattooing, and the art of marking the human form as a living language. Imagine the flickering firelight casting shadows over figures adorned with vibrant pigments and intricate patterns. These markings were more than decoration, they were powerful symbols, personal and communal texts etched or painted on skin, carrying stories, status, beliefs, and identity. Body painting in the Stone Age was an act of transformation. Using natural pigments, ochre reds, charcoal blacks, clay whites, people adorned themselves with colors and shapes that conveyed their place within the tribe, their role in rituals, or their achievements in hunts. The very act of applying paint was a ritual, an embodied language that connected individuals to their community in the spiritual world. Tattooing, although less evident archaeologically, likely held similar significance. The permanence of ink or carved designs on skin made tattoos potent symbols of identity and belonging, marking rites of passage, alliances, or protection. These bodily marks functioned as nonverbal communication visible to all, encoding complex information without a single word. A pattern could signal a warrior's rank, a color might indicate a spiritual affiliation. The body itself became a walking manuscript, carrying messages of power, beauty, and meaning. The ephemeral nature of body paint contrasted with the permanence of tattoos, reflecting different layers of communication: momentary expression versus lifelong identity. Both were deeply personal yet inherently social, blending individual narrative with collective culture. Moreover, these practices fostered deep connection between the painter and the painted, the individual and the group, the physical and the spiritual. They involved touch, ritual, and intention, making communication an embodied experience. As you lie in the stillness of night, imagine the ancient hands gently applying pigment, the quiet concentration, the significance held in each stroke. Feel the powerful language spoken by color and pattern on skin, a language of transformation, belonging, and story. Rest now, wrapped in the ancient art of body marking, a silent dialogue between flesh and spirit, connecting us to the earliest human expressions of identity and communication. And now, as the quiet night envelops you, and the echoes of painted skins and tattooed stories fade gently into memory, we continue our journey into the remarkable realm of Stone Age communication, this time exploring the powerful and intricate language of sound beyond speech. The use of whistles, calls, and other vocal signals that transcended words and connected individuals across vast landscapes. Imagine the vast expanse of ancient forests and open plains, where early humans needed to convey urgent messages, coordinate hunts, or call loved ones across distances too great for ordinary voice alone. In this world, the human voice became an instrument of astonishing versatility, capable of producing a rich array of sounds: whistles, clicks, calls, and other vocalizations that formed a complex system of communication. These sounds were not random, but carefully modulated signals, with distinct meanings understood within and across groups. A sharp whistle might warn of approaching danger. A long, melodic call could summon members of the tribe to gather. A series of clicks might convey information about location or timing. Whistling, in particular, was a highly effective way to carry messages over long distances. Its piercing tone could cut through dense vegetation or echo across valleys, reaching ears far beyond the range of spoken words. In this way, whistled languages became vital tools for survival and social coordination. The use of calls and whistles also played a role in hunting strategies. Coordinated vocal signals allowed groups to work in unison, driving prey toward ambushes or communicating silent cues that ensured stealth and success. This system required not only skill but deep trust and understanding among group members. Moreover, these vocal signals often carried emotional weight and social nuance. The tone, rhythm, and pattern of a call could express urgency, reassurance, or celebration, adding layers of meaning beyond simple information. Beyond their practical function, whistles and calls held cultural significance. They were woven into ritual and ceremony, marking sacred times or invoking spiritual presence. Some sounds mimicked animal calls, bridging the human world with nature's own languages. Learning and mastering these vocal signals was a vital part of socialization. Young members of the group hone their ability to produce and interpret these sounds, ensuring the continuity of this intricate communication system. As you rest now in the quiet night, imagine these ancient calls echoing through forests and hills, the language of whistles and songs that carried messages across time and space, binding communities and weaving survival. Let this ancient vocal tapestry soothe you into peaceful rest, wrapped in the timeless music of human connection beyond words. And so, as the night deepens and the echoes of whistles and calls fade softly into the stillness, we move further into the fascinating world of Stone Age communication, now turning our attention to the delicate and intricate language of scent and smell, a form of communication as ancient and primal as life itself. Imagine the vast wilderness where early humans roamed, surrounded not only by sights and sounds but by a rich tapestry of smells, the earthy aroma of wet soil, the sharp scent of crushed herbs, the musky trace of animals passing nearby, and the subtle odors that lingered on skin and clothing. These scents were not mere background. They were potent signals carrying information essential for survival and social interaction. In the animal kingdom, scent is a primary language, used for marking territory, identifying individuals, signaling reproductive status, and warning of danger. Early humans, deeply connected to nature, also harnessed this olfactory communication, embedding meaning in the very air around them. The natural sense carried clues tracking prey or predators, identifying edible plants, or sensing changes in the environment. But beyond that, humans developed a nuanced awareness of body odors, pheromones, and the smells associated with health, emotion, and social bonds. Communities likely used scent in rituals in daily life. The application of aromatic plants, resins, and oils could convey status, invite connection, or ward off evil. These fragrances became symbolic markers, communicating cultural identity and spiritual beliefs. Scent also played a subtle role in attraction and bonding. The natural odors exchanged through close contact conveyed information about genetic compatibility and emotional states, silently guiding social and reproductive choices. Moreover, the sense of smell triggered deep emotional and mnemonic responses. A familiar scent could evoke memories or signal comfort and safety within a group, strengthening social cohesion. This olfactory language was intertwined with other forms of communication: touch, gesture, sound, creating a rich, multisensory dialogue. It was a silent yet powerful current flowing beneath daily interactions, linking individuals to each other and to the natural world. As you rest now, imagine the ancient world infused with these scents, the delicate balance of nature's perfumes and human intention. The invisible messages carried on the breeze. Feel the profound connection to a primal form of communication, as old as life itself. Let this awareness lull you into peaceful rest, surrounded by the ancient language of smell, a silent dialogue that continues to shape our deepest bonds and memories. And so, as the night gently cradles your thoughts and the ancient whispers of scent fade into the soft darkness, we journey onward into the vast and wondrous world of Stone Age communication. Having explored the invisible yet potent language of smell, we now turn to a marvel of human ingenuity, the early use of fire and smoke signals as a means to communicate across vast distances, bridging landscapes and communities in ways both practical and symbolic. Picture the wide expanses of prehistoric lands, where tribes roamed freely but remained connected through subtle, deliberate signals that transcended voice and proximity. Fire, both as a source of light and warmth, became a powerful communicator, and its companion, smoke, served as a visible message sent skyward, a beacon reaching across hills and valleys. The flickering flames of a carefully tended fire were not only essential for survival, they were a language in themselves. The size, intensity, and placement of fires could signal presence, warn of danger, or call for aid. From atop hilltops or ridges, smoke plumes formed patterns controlled, rhythmic bursts or continuous columns, each carrying agreed-upon meanings understood by distant watchers. Smoke signals bridged the isolation imposed by geography, enabling tribes to coordinate movements, signal threats, or celebrate communal events from afar. This form of communication required skill, timing, and shared understanding, a deliberate choreography of fire and air. Beyond the practical, fire and smoke held deep symbolic power. They were sacred elements, mediators between the human and spiritual worlds. The smoke rising to the heavens carried prayers and messages to ancestors and gods, creating invisible threads linking earth to sky. The ritual use of fire in ceremonies further reinforced its communicative role. Flames danced as storytellers spoke, while smoke swirled in sacred patterns, encoding messages of transformation, renewal, and connection. This visual language was dynamic, adaptable, and imbued with meaning both immediate and profound. The interplay of light and shadow, smoke and sky, became a canvas upon which early humans inscribed their intentions, warnings, and hopes. As you rest now, imagine the glowing fires flickering across ancient landscapes, the silent smoke signals weaving through the twilight sky, carrying messages across time and space. Feel the enduring power of this elemental language, a testament to human creativity and connection. Rest peacefully, embraced by the primal glow, and whispered messages of fire and smoke, a communication as old as humanity itself, still echoing in the rhythms of our world. And as the quiet embers of fire and smoke fade softly into the night's embrace, we continue our deep journey into the myriad ways Stone Age people wove their intricate tapestry of communication. Having explored the elemental language of fire's flicker and the ephemeral rise of smoke, we now delve into the silent, yet profoundly expressive domain of touch, a language spoken without words, felt deeply in the skin and soul. Touch, the most primal and immediate of senses, is the first language humans ever know, beginning in the womb and continuing through every moment of life. In the Stone Age world, touch was essential, a bridge of connection, comfort, and communication that transcended the need for sound or symbol. Imagine the tender clasp of hands signaling reassurance in times of fear, the guiding touch helping a child learn the ways of the world, or the firm grip that forged bonds of trust and alliance between tribe members. These touches were rich with meaning, nuanced, and deeply felt. From the gentle stroke to the pressing embrace, touch conveyed emotions too complex for words: love, grief, solidarity, warning, or celebration. It was an unspoken dialogue that connected hearts and minds in ways that transcended language's limits. The rhythms of touch, whether in ritual dance, healing practices, or social bonding, played a vital role in communal life. Touch synchronized emotions, regulated stress, and reinforced social hierarchies and roles. It was a powerful tool for teaching, comforting, and commanding. Moreover, touch was integral to the transmission of knowledge and skill. Apprentices learned crafts and survival techniques through hands-on guidance, the tactile experience embedding learning deeply in body and mind. The sacredness of touch is evident in rituals where physical contact mediated between the human and spiritual realms. Anointing, blessing, or healing touch invoked transformation and connection beyond the visible world. In moments of crisis, touch could calm fear and restore courage. In moments of joy, it amplified celebration and unity. This silent language wove the fabric of social life, binding individuals into a living community. As you rest now, imagine the warmth of human contact, the gentle brush of skin, the strength of an embrace, the comfort of a hand held in solidarity. Feel the profound eloquence of touch, a timeless language that continues to speak across cultures and eras. Rest deeply, cradled by the silent conversation of touch, a universal dialogue of connection that pulses beneath every word and gesture. And so, as the comforting echoes of touch gently fade into the night's soft silence, we continue our exploration of the rich and multifaceted ways Stone Age people communicated, turning now to one of the most visually striking and enduring forms of expression: the use of natural materials and crafted objects as symbols, tools that spoke volumes without a single uttered word. Imagine a world where every object, from the simplest stone flake to the most carefully fashioned spearhead, was imbued with meaning far beyond its practical function. These crafted items were more than mere tools. They were tangible messages, physical embodiments of skill, status, and cultural identity. The selection of materials, rare stones, shells, bones, carried significance. Possession of a finely made tool or ornament communicated wealth, power, or spiritual connection. These objects were often traded or gifted, creating networks of exchange that reinforced social ties and shared knowledge. Beyond individual ownership, the very design and decoration of tools conveyed information. Patterns etched onto handles, shapes carefully balanced for purpose, and the manner of construction all spoke to the maker's expertise, cultural affiliations, and intentions. Some objects served as totems or amulets, believed to hold protective or magical powers. Their presence communicated beliefs and offered a silent dialogue with the unseen world, linking the physical and spiritual realms. These crafted symbols also functioned as records markers of events, achievements, or lineage. In a time before written language, objects became mnemonic devices, helping preserve stories and histories through tangible form. The craftsmanship involved was a language of patience and precision. The process of making, using, and passing on these tools was itself a communicative act, embedding knowledge into objects that transcended generations. Furthermore, these material symbols played a role in rites of passage, where the bestowal or creation of a tool marked transitions in social status, skill, or identity. Receiving or crafting such an object was a profound form of communication, articulating belonging and responsibility. As you rest now, picture these ancient hands shaping stone and bone, infusing each object with meaning and intention. Feel the silent language spoken by crafted tools, tangible echoes of human thought, connection, and culture. Rest peacefully, wrapped in the enduring story told by these material messengers, a communication bridging the past and present through form, function, and artistry. And so, as the whispers of crafted stone and bone fade softly into the quiet night, we venture further into the intricate and nuanced world of Stone Age communication, turning now toward the profound role of ritual and ceremony, those collective acts imbued with meaning, shaping both individual identity and communal cohesion through symbolic interaction. Imagine a gathering at dusk, where the entire tribe congregates around a central fire or sacred space. The air is thick with anticipation and the scent of burning herbs. Movements are deliberate, rhythmic chants rise and fall, and every gesture, sound, and artifact plays a part in an elaborate dance of meaning. Rituals were much more than performances. They were languages in motion, carefully choreographed sequences of symbolic acts that communicated values, cosmologies, and social orders. Each element, fire, water, sound, color, costume, was a word in a language that transcended speech, expressing ideas too complex or sacred for ordinary conversation. Through ritual, Stone Age people enacted the cycles of life, birth, coming of age, marriage, death. These ceremonies marked transitions, anchoring individuals within the social fabric and connecting them to ancestors and the spiritual realm. The rituals themselves were a dialogue between the material and immaterial, the visible and invisible worlds. Symbols used in ritual painted faces, carved totems, specific tools carried layered meanings understood collectively, encoding beliefs and reinforcing shared worldviews. The repetition of ritual acts across generations ensured continuity of culture and identity, creating a living link across time. Participation in ritual fostered a profound sense of belonging and collective identity. The shared experience of ceremony synchronized emotions and intentions, forging bonds of trust and cooperation essential for survival in a challenging world. Rituals also served as a forum for negotiation between individuals, groups, and even between the human and supernatural realms. They were spaces where social hierarchies were affirmed, conflicts resolved, and communal decisions communicated symbolically. Moreover, the sensory richness of ritual music, movement, smell, visual symbols engaged participants fully, creating immersive communication that transcended ordinary discourse. This multi-layered language spoke directly to the heart and spirit. As you rest now, imagine the flickering firelight illuminating sacred dances and chants, the rhythm of drums beating in harmony with heartbeat, the communal breath held in reverent silence. Feel the deep power of ritual as a timeless language, a dance of symbols, sounds, and movements weaving human connection across the ages. Rest peacefully, wrapped in the sacred embrace of these ancient ceremonies, a living dialogue of meaning that continues to echo within us all. And as the echoes of sacred rituals slowly fade into the embrace of the night, we move onward through the labyrinth of Stone Age communication, turning now to a form both subtle and profound, the language of eye contact and facial expression, those fleeting, yet powerful gestures that convey volumes without uttering a single sound. Picture a gathering around the flickering firelight, where words may be few but eyes speak clearly. The glance shared between two hunters, the raised brow of curiosity, the gentle smile of reassurance, or the sharp glare of warning, each expression a thread in the delicate tapestry of silent communication. The eyes, often called the windows to the soul, served as vital communicators in a world where words were limited or sometimes dangerous to speak aloud. A shared gaze could signal trust, unity, or understanding. It could reveal fear, aggression, or compassion. This silent dialogue was immediate and intimate, binding individuals through mutual awareness. Facial expressions, from subtle shifts in muscle to broad displays of emotion, enrich this communication. Joy, sorrow, surprise, anger, all were encoded in the flexible face, understood instinctively and universally among humans. These expressions helped navigate social interactions, maintaining harmony or signaling conflict. In Stone Age communities, where cooperation was essential for survival, the ability to read and respond to such cues was critical. Eye contact could coordinate silent teamwork during a hunt, express consent or dissent within the group, or offer comfort in times of distress. Beyond practicality, these nonverbal signals carried emotional depth and spiritual significance. The gaze might be directed toward the sacred or used in ritual contexts to convey reverence or invoke protection. Moreover, the interplay of eye contact and facial expression fostered empathy, allowing individuals to resonate with one another's emotional states. This deep emotional attunement was a cornerstone of social bonding and group cohesion. As you rest now, imagine the silent language of eyes meeting across the firelight, the quiet conversation carried in glances and expressions. Feel the profound eloquence of these fleeting moments, a communication as ancient and universal as humanity itself. Rest deeply, held in the silent embrace of shared gaze, a language without words that continues to weave connection through time. And now, as the quiet gaze of the night softens, and the silent language of eyes and expressions settles gently into your mind, we arrive at the final chapter of our journey through the rich and intricate world of Stone Age communication. Having traversed gestures, sounds, symbols, and rituals, we come to the culmination, understanding how all these threads wove together to form the very fabric of human connection, laying the foundation for the complex languages and societies that followed. Imagine the Stone Age community as a living tapestry, each thread a distinct mode of communication, vibrant and essential. Speech, though limited and evolving, intertwined with gesture, touch, sound, and symbol, creating a dynamic and holistic system that enabled survival, cooperation, and culture. Communication was just about exchanging information. It was about weaving relationships, forging trust, and expressing identity. The subtle shift of a glance, the rhythm of a drum beat, the exchange of a crafted tool, the shared story around the fire, all these were acts of connection, binding individuals into a coherent whole. This multifaceted language was deeply embedded in daily life, from coordinating hunts to teaching skills, from performing rituals to expressing emotion. Communication was a living, breathing force shaping the community's very existence. Moreover, these early forms of communication laid the groundwork for symbolic thought and eventually spoken and written language. They represent humanity's first attempts to transcend immediate experience, to encode meaning, and to share inner worlds. As you rest now, let your mind absorb this vast panorama of human expression. Feel the echoes of ancient voices, the touch of unseen hands, the pulse of rhythms long silenced but never forgotten. Rest peacefully, embraced by the timeless web of connections spun by our ancestors, a testament to the enduring power of communication to unite, heal, and transform. And so, dear listener, as you drift into the quiet realms of sleep, carry with you the profound truth that the languages of the Stone Age still live within us all, whispering their ancient wisdom in every gesture, glance, and heartbeat. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the endless stories of humanity's first voices. And as the gentle echoes of our journey's end settle softly into the quiet night, a final reflection invites us to delve even deeper beyond the spoken, the seen, and the touched, into the profound mysteries of silence itself, the quiet heartbeat underpinning all Stone Age communication, and indeed, all human connection. Silence, often overlooked, is the canvas upon which every gesture, sound, and symbol is painted. It is the space between words, the pause pregnant with meaning, the breath held before a story begins. In the Stone Age, silence was not absence but presence, a powerful communicator in its own right. Imagine moments around the flickering fire where words ceased, yet the weight of understanding hung heavy. The shared glance, the soft sigh, the steady gaze all spoke volumes without a single sound. In these silences, trust was built, emotions were felt deeply, and bonds were strengthened. Silence served as a protective veil, masking intentions from potential threats, preserving secrets, and creating sacred spaces for reflection and ritual. It was in silence that individuals attuned to their surroundings, listened to the whispers of nature, and connected with the unseen forces they believed governed their world. Moreover, silence fostered anticipation and reverence. The pause before a ritual chant, the hush following a story's climax, the quietude enveloping a moment of loss. These silences shaped experience, allowing meaning to settle and resonate within the heart. In social interaction, silence was a dynamic tool used to negotiate power, signal consent or dissent, or invite participation. It was a language of boundaries and invitations, respect and resistance. The capacity to embrace and interpret silence reflects a profound sensitivity to context, emotion, and relationship, a subtle skill that enriched Stone Age communication far beyond words. As you rest now, let the embrace of silence soothe your mind. Feel the deep calm of quiet moments, the profound dialogue spoken between heartbeats, and the timeless connection forged in stillness. Rest deeply, cradled in the sacred silence that cradled our ancestors, a silent language that continues to speak through the quiet spaces of our lives. And so, as sleep enfolds you, carry with you the ancient wisdom of silence, the unseen thread that weaves all communication into a living, breathing tapestry of human connection. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the gentle hum of quiet understanding. And as the stillness of silence gently fades into the tender folds of night, our journey through the intricate world of Stone Age communication leads us now to explore another profound dimension, the emergence of rhythm and music as primal languages that spoke directly to the human soul, waving communities together in ways words alone could never achieve. Imagine the first sparks of sound erupting from the natural world, the steady beating of a drum made from stretched animal hide, the resonant hum of a hollowed log, the rhythmic clapping of hands echoing against cave walls. These early musical expressions were more than mere noise. They were powerful tools for connection, coordination, and spiritual expression. Rhythm became a universal language, transcending individual tongues and cultural boundaries. The pulsating beat aligned hearts and bodies, synchronizing movement during hunts, rituals, and communal gatherings. Music created a shared pulse that fostered unity and cooperation, essential for survival in the harsh Stone Age environment. Beyond practical uses, music embodied emotion and storytelling. Melodies carried the weight of joy, sorrow, hope, and longing, touching listeners at a visceral level. Songs were vehicles for preserving history, passing down myths, and celebrating the sacred cycles of nature. The act of creating and participating in music was itself a form of communication and embodied dialogue between individuals and their communities, between the material and spiritual worlds. Instruments crafted from bone, stone, and wood were not just tools, but extensions of human creativity and identity. Music and rhythm also played vital roles in rituals and ceremonies, marking transitions and invoking the presence of ancestors and spirits. The repetitive, trance-like quality of rhythmic sounds facilitated altered states of consciousness, deepening the connection between humans and the unseen realms. The transmission of musical knowledge was deeply social, involving learning through imitation, participation, and oral tradition. This collective process reinforced social bonds and cultural continuity, embedding music into the very fabric of community life. As you rest now, envision the ancient rhythms resonating through valleys and caves, the communal heartbeat of early humans united in song and dance. Feel the timeless power of music, the first universal language, speaking directly to the heart and soul across millennia. Rest peacefully, enveloped by the soothing embrace of rhythm and melody, a living testament to the enduring human spirit of connection and expression. And as the fading echoes of ancient drums and melodies gently dissolve into the night's quiet embrace, our exploration of Stone Age communication leads us deeper into the profound world of symbolism etched into the very fabric of the natural world, the sacred landscape itself as a living text, a canvas for human expression and connection. Picture vast expanses of forest, mountain, river, and cave, each element imbued with meaning, each stone and tree a bearer of stories and sacred significance. In this world, the environment was not a passive backdrop, but an active participant in human communication, a living, breathing entity intertwined with the people who roamed its reaches. The earliest humans read this natural language keenly. They recognized patterns in the stars, cycles in the seasons, and rhythms in animal behavior, interpreting these signs as messages from the cosmos and spirits. This deep attunement to nature signals guided hunting, migration, and ritual, creating a dialogue between humans and the world around them. Sacred sites, caves adorned with paintings, unique rock formations, or specific groves served as gathering places where people connected not only with each other but with ancestral and spiritual forces. These landscapes were storied places, marked by memory and meaning, their physical features serving as mnemonic devices for communal knowledge and belief. Markings on rocks and earth extended the language of humans into their environment, transforming the land into a vast open book where symbols and signs communicated territory, identity, and cosmology. Paths, cairns, and other landmarks encoded stories and directions, a silent language understood by those who shared the land. This integration of nature and communication reflects a holistic worldview, one where humans are not separate from but deeply embedded within the cycles and spirits of the earth. Every natural feature became a word or sentence in the ongoing story of human existence. As you rest now, imagine yourself surrounded by this sacred landscape, feeling the hum of ancient wisdom flowing through stone and soil, the silent conversations between people and place. Sense the profound connection to the earth as a living language, an eternal dialogue written in wind, water, and stone. Rest peacefully, wrapped in the embrace of the natural world's silent story, a timeless communication that continues to resonate within us all.